The shocking and totally unexpected loss by the U.S. women's soccer team to Sweden is fully emblematic of what is happening to our once great nation under nation, our nation under crooked Joe Biden. Many of our players were openly hostile to America. No other country behaved in such a manner or even close. Woke equals failure. Nice shot, Megan. The USA is going to hell. Make America great again. I love it. Donald Trump out there on Truth Social, he says that, he goes, the total shocking and unexpected loss by the U.S. women's soccer team to Sweden is fully emblematic of what is happening to our once great nation under crooked Joe Biden. Yes. Nice shot, Megan. I love it. Wake up, pray up. Hey, it is a Monday morning, 6:06 a.m. I had a great weekend. I actually saw a couple of movies that were on my list to watch. And I can say that I really liked one and I hated the other one. I watched the Barbie movie. I watched it up in Lincoln, Illinois at their Lincoln VIP theater. And all I've got to say is, wow, I did not think that it was going to be as woke as it was. I thought it was going to be more subtle, but it definitely was not. The main thing that I'll tell you about that movie, and I don't want to give you any spoilers if you're planning to go see it. I think that it's reached $1 billion in the box office. And that's no shock because everywhere you go, there's Barbie. Barbie, 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 Barbie. It's all marketing. Right. And I went to go see it. And there's one thing that I noticed in the film that just completely changed the film for me. So there's this Ken and Barbie, okay? And Barbie Land is ruled by women, and that's where all the Barbie dolls live, okay? And then there's the real world, and the real world is controlled by men. So Barbie visits the real world with Ken, and Ken loves the real world because he's like, oh my gosh, all these men are dominating the real world. But then Ken tries to be a part of the real world. Okay, he tries to get a job. He goes to this very fancy corporate high rise, asks the gentleman there, hey, can I get a job? He goes to construction sites and he asks, hey, can I get a job? And nobody will give him a job because because he's a Barbie doll and he's from Barbie land, he has no MBA, he has no college degree, he has no experience. He can't even get a construction worker job without any kind of experience under his belt. Okay. So then he's met with this guy in this corporate high rise. It's the last place he tries to get a job. And he goes, well, I'm a man. And don't real men dominate the world? And the guy in the corporate high rise looks at Ken and says, well, yeah. He goes, but we do it secretly. It's just in secret that we do that. So, I mean, there were so many times where they mentioned the patriarchy, and it's like, wait a second, it's all based on a merit system. You can see that clearly because Ken tries to go get a job and he can't get a job because he has no merit. And, but like the entire premise of the movie was that, yeah, there's this secret patriarchy that goes on in the real world where men just dominate the world and they don't have to have any kind of merit. But like they disprove that when Ken tries to go and get a job. It was completely wild to me. Um, Terrible movie. I think there was a reference to an abortion in the beginning. So in the very beginning, the way the film opens up is there are little girls playing with baby dolls. Okay, because traditionally before Barbie, you would play with a baby doll. And there's little girls playing with it, and then Barbie comes, and then they all start to smash up their baby dolls, which I think is a subtle reference to abortion. Um, and that abortion is okay. So it was completely wild. That's my take there on the Barbie movie. Then I watched Jesus Revolution, which was just fantastic. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. I suggest you go watch Jesus Revolution. It's about how in the 70s the hippies started to turn towards Jesus, and there was this great revival happening, and people were getting baptized in Pirates Cove in California, and it was fantastic. That movie was very well done. So, a couple of movies I watched this weekend. Have you seen those movies? Go ahead and text in 309-451-9299 if you've seen any of those movies. I'd love to know what you thought about them. And I'll read your texts on air. You can always text that line. That's our buzz line. This is the Morning Buzz. You can see me live in studio. I'm on Rumble this morning, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. So you can see me in studio and you can see all the show prep that I've got planned for us. So, big day. We've got a big day when it comes to news. I'm going to run through this Joe Biden resurrecting this Dark Brandon meme. That was something that happened, I think, on Friday or Thursday, something like that. It was the same day that Donald Trump was arraigned for those indictments. I can't remember. I think it was on Thursday. But Joe Biden was filmed drinking a cup of coffee and saying that he liked his coffee black. And then he sets the mug down and his face is on the mug. And I don't understand this whole Dark Brandon meme. It's just very cringy. It's very cringy. And the official Democrats put this on their TikTok. It's been going viral, this weird cringy clip. So, I mean, this clip reaches unprecedented levels of cringe. So I don't know who decided to film Joe Biden for 9 seconds, but that person should be fired. Next, Jamie Foxx. He's been attacked. And he has apologized now for these anti-Semitic posts that he made, and they weren't anti-Semitic. Wow, shocking. So he bent the knee, apologized for a so-called anti-Semitic post. I read this post and I'm like, wait a second, how could you guys say that this is anti-Semitic? But the left is the left, and that's just what they do. And then a little bit later, love Megyn Kelly, always have. Megyn Kelly, she savages this tabloid reporter for challenging her credibility. And Keith Olbermann has been melting down here on the sidelines because Megyn Kelly talked about something on her podcast. And they tried to say that because she talked about something on her podcast that she's not a credible podcaster. And this is just your classic corporate journalismers attacking those who have podcasts or who have alternative media and are good at it, like Tucker Carlson. Megyn Kelly has one of the top podcasts in the nation, Joe Rogan. These people hate podcasters because it goes against the corporate journalism narrative. So we're going to get into all of that here in the 6 o'clock hour. We're also going to visit with reporter William J. Kelly. We're going to catch up on some Chicago news. I like visiting with him on Mondays to see how violent it really was over the weekend in Chicago. So he's going to be visiting with me here at about 6:30 on a day when he had one of his political opponents indicted for exercising his right to free speech, because make no mistake, that's exactly what this indictment is. They don't like that Donald Trump dare say his thoughts out loud. It's a thought crime. And he said his thoughts out loud about how he thought that the election was stolen. And Jack Smith, the guy who's prosecuting him over this, said that he has the right to falsely claim that the election was stolen. But yet he's still indicting him anyway. So Joe Biden, he had his political opponent indicted for exercising free speech. On that day, we had somebody in the White House hand Joe Biden a mug and told him to put his mouth to it, because God knows that he doesn't make any kind of move without somebody telling him, "Hey, Joe, do it now. Do this now. Do this now." They direct his every move. So they said, "Okay, put the cup of coffee to your lips." So they're filming him, and they told him to take a sip, and they filmed him for about 9 seconds. After about a billion takes, I'm sure this was not done on one take. Joe Biden, I mean, he probably had to get up to go to the bathroom. He probably fell asleep in the middle of this video being shot, the whole 9 seconds. So a billion takes later, they finally had this resurrecting Dark Brandon meme. So you're like, what the heck is Dark Brandon? First, what I want to do, and if you're watching on the YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble, you can see it. I think that seeing it is better, so you can truly understand what they did here with this video. But here's Joe Biden in this video with his coffee trying to resurrect this Dark Brandon meme. So here we go. Let's take a listen.
I like my coffee dark.
Okay, so he takes the sip of coffee, he sets the coffee mug down, and the cup of coffee has Joe Biden's face on it, and it says 2024, and Joe Biden's eyes are red. Like, they're like the picture on the coffee mug, it has glowing red eyes, the Joe Biden picture. So you're like, "Okay, what the heck is a dark Brandon mean? Oh, what are you talking about? What does this dark Brandon mean?" Well, let's take a trip back to 2021. So in the beginning of September 2021, a week into college football, some guys had way too many beers before the game, and they started chanting, blank Joe Biden. I can't say it because of, FCC, okay? But you fill in the blank Joe Biden, blank Joe Biden. And this captivated the nation. So at sporting events everywhere, every college game, every college football game, there was just chanting blank Joe Biden going on. Now, one day after a guy named Brandon won a NASCAR race, the reporter interviewing him thought that the crowd was saying, let's go Brandon instead of blank Joe Biden. So she was like, "Oh, Brandon," the NBC reporter, she goes, they're cheering your name. Let's go, Brandon." Obviously not. It was very clearly in the clip, in the video. You could hear them chanting blank Joe Biden. That's when things really took off after that, like NBC, ABC, I don't know, some sort of corporate journalism or tried to pretend that that wasn't what was being chanted in the crowd. She tried to say that it was "Let's go, Brandon." It was definitely blank Joe Biden. So now, us as Americans, we have a family friendly way to express how Joe Biden is a failure of a man and sucks at life. And there were even songs written about "Let's go, Brandon." Okay, so everyone from young chads to middle-aged senators got involved. This is a TikTok of Ted Cruz actually out there talking about "Let's go, Brandon." So even, Senator Ted Cruz has gotten in on it. Let's take a listen to this clip. Here we go.
Let's go, Brandon. Say it.
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
So there you have it. It was Ted Cruz.
Let's go, Brandon. Say it.
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
It looks like a.
Let's go, Brandon. Say it.
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
So this has been like a really big thing for quite some time. "Let's go, Brandon." Okay. So the progressive response to "Let's go, Brandon" was this dark Brandon. So in their fantasy world, Joe Biden has an alter ego with red eyes, and he kind of looks like a demon. And this is their attempt at edgelording. So, but it's failed miserably because Joe Biden is not cool. And Joe Biden fails at remembering to use the bathroom before he leaves to go meet the Pope. Okay, so this dark Brandon is supposed to be like this sassy, sharp old man who drives a Corvette and totally just owns Republicans on a daily, but that's just not true. In reality, Joe Biden has dementia. And on a day when Joe Biden's DOJ had one of his opponents arrested again, the White House thought it would be a great idea to celebrate Biden being a supervillain. So this is why they created this video, this 9-second video. Their fantasy Biden the Demon celebrated with a cup of prune juice in his coffee mug. That's what I see here. This is, I mean, at least they got the demon part right. Okay, so Joe Biden, dark Brandon, it's cringy, it's weird. I just don't get it. He's not this sassy, sharp old man who drives a Corvette. He has dementia. And this dark Brandon meme was just uber cringy. All right, I do have to take a break, but we're going to come back. Jamie Foxx has to apologize for an anti-Semitic Instagram post that wasn't at all anti-Semitic. So Jamie Foxx bending the knee to the left. I'll be back on the other side. This is the Morning Buzz. Hey, if you're watching right now, go ahead and smash that like button. I would greatly appreciate if you also shared this video out with your normie friends. Now, I did go see the Barbie movie, and that, my friends, was the worst film I have ever seen in my life. I was laughing pretty hard in the theater though. So the film opens up, and I think that really what it is, it's a reference to abortion and how it's okay. We have these little girls sitting in a circle playing with some Barbie dolls, and I guess that Barbie dolls, baby dolls, and I guess that baby dolls were a thing before Barbie dolls were a thing. So young girls would play with baby dolls, and then Barbie came out. And the reason why they didn't like the baby dolls was because um baby dolls implies motherhood, and girls could only play with toys that replicated some sort of motherhood. So they thought it was, anti-female to play with baby dolls. So that's why Barbie came out. So Barbie comes down from the sky or whatever, and then all of the children have like this great awakening, and they're like, "I hate this baby doll," and then they start smashing the heads of the baby dolls on the ground. Very disturbing. Um, and I just couldn't believe it. The opening of that film itself was just very bizarre. And then it just got progressively worse. Barbie Land, I guess, is some sort of land that is dominated by women, and Barbie has to go to the real world to try to help the woman who is playing with her, to try to help this young, or she, at what she thinks is a young girl, but is actually a woman going through some things in her life where she's, drawing, and she actually works for Mattel. It's a very bizarre story. I'm not going to get into all of that, but basically, it's super woke, and it's very anti human. I'm just going to say it because I just don't understand how women can, and these feminazis can sit there and say that we don't live in a merit-based system, and then they demonize um men for having a more dominant personality, perhaps getting to be a CEO. Being a CEO is not easy, it's not fun. It's something that typically a lot of men do. Um, you don't see a lot of CEO women just because biologically, and you can see this, and they play into these, they're not stereotypes, it's just what women and men do. Barbie, when she's in the real world, she has a lot of emotion, and she sees people, and she sees the emotions that they're going through, and she sympathizes with people while she's in the real world. And they almost, I would say, demonize that. And I think that that is something that is men and women are just different, and they they try to demonize this whole emotionalism that women go through, or that women have, and how they see people rather than, numbers and things like that. And it's just like they demonize that, and they're like, well, if you want to be this CEO woman, then you can be a CEO woman. If you want to be an emotional woman, then you can be an emotional woman. They didn't say that that was like wrong, but they said that you could do both. And that's what's really concerning for me, seeing young girls go into this film with their millennial mothers who uh, want to be, or want to go watch this movie. I was concerned because it's like, this is such a dangerous message to be putting out to children, that you can do both, and that, you can dominate in both. And even in the film, they kind of point that out to where, women are, you got to be the boss, but you can't be too mean. So they kind of point out how women struggle with that, but the whole reason why their struggle with that is because you have the feminazis who continue to say that you can do both, that you can do both the CEO thing and the emotional motherhood thing, that you can have both and it'll be completely fine. And it's not. And you can see, so I don't know. The movie really contradicted itself a whole lot. And I don't think that they really got their message across effectively to try to say that, women can do both. And what was really interesting was at the end, Barbie, she goes to the inventor of Barbie, who is her creator, and she said, you know, aren't you the creator of Barbie? Don't you control what I do? Because Barbie wants to leave Barbie land and go live in this real world. And she goes, aren't you the creator? Don't you control what I do? And the creator looks at her and says, no, the only person who can control what you do is you. So it's a very humanistic film where like it's anti God, it's anti woman, it's anti man. It's just a really terrible film. And I felt bad for the women and for the girls who were watching the film. Um, I'll be back. Hold on. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. Yes, I did go see the Barbie movie. It was just as terrible as I thought it was going to be. In fact, it was worse. It was disgusting. There was, I think, some sort of implied abortion at the beginning of the film where a bunch of little girls are playing with baby dolls, and baby dolls were super popular before Barbie had come in. I think it was like the 50s is when Barbie was created, invented. And as soon as Barbie comes, all of the little girls take their baby dolls and smash their heads on the ground. Yes. And, the reason for that, they open the movie with, hey, it's wrong to want to play with Barbie dolls. It's wrong to try to have young girls pretend to be mothers. That's wrong. You can have both. You can be a CEO, you could be a doctor, you could do all of these things, which is totally fine. But they almost demonize this emotionalism that actually Barbie goes through when she visits the real world. So there's Barbie land and then there's the real world. The real world, I guess, is ran by men, although it seems like it's just ran by people who go through a merit-based system and have the ability to go through that merit-based system and make it out on top. Because Ken tries to go get a job himself and he can't even get any kind of job without experience or some sort of degree. And, it's contradictory because they say that the real world is dominated by men. Really, it's just dominated by people who have the degrees and have the merit. Okay, so and then there's this famous line out of the Barbie movie, which I mean, I think has made $1 billion in the box office. It doesn't shock me. The marketing is absolutely insane for that movie. You can't go anywhere without seeing something Barbie related. But there's this line in the film, and it's from the corporate CEO type guy. When Ken asks for a job, he goes, "Well, can I get a job? I'm a man." And he goes, "This world is dominated by men." And he goes, "Shh, shh, shh. Yeah, it is, but like we keep it a secret." Like as if there's this some underlying patriarchy that's happening. And man, I don't know, like that in and of itself, like you guys don't even talk about this secret patriarchy. It's just there. It's just there, okay? We're not going to give any kind of reason as to why we think that men are dominating the world, but they're doing it in the shadows. And we don't know exactly what they're doing to be able to have this kind of dominance over the world, but there's this dominance over the world and it's the patriarchy. And I just was like, what? Like, this is so contradictory. But they demonize Barbie in the real world with their feminazism for having emotions, for looking at people. She sits on a park bench and there's this elderly woman and she just sheds a tear for this elderly woman because she's elderly. And she starts shedding a tear for the guy that's stressing out on the park bench. And, she goes through all of this emotional responses to the real world. And they almost demonize Barbie for that. And it's just like, wow, this is so anti woman. It's so anti men. And it's anti human because at the end of the film, Barbie, she meets with her inventor, her creator, and she wants to go into the real world. And she kind of asks for permission from the creator if that's something that she should do is to go into the real world. And then the creator responds to Barbie and says, well, I'm not in control of you. You're in control of you. So it's a very secular humanistic type film. So it's anti-God, it's anti-woman, and it's anti-man. So I'm just gonna there's there's my overall review. And man, oh man, I mean that movie sucked. All right, I do want to get to Jamie Foxx being attacked, and he had to apologize for being anti-Semitic over this Instagram post that I don't think was very anti-Semitic at all. A little bit later, we're going to talk about how Obama is he gay? Uh, no, well, kind of. So Obama frequently fantasized about gay sex to his ex-girlfriend per some letters that have been obtained. So allegedly, and this is from the Post Millennial, they're doing reportings on this. Obama confessed to a girlfriend that he had fantasized about engaging with men sexually. Whoa, this is explosive. So I'm going to be kind of going through these letters with you. It was a former ex-girlfriend, and he confessed repeatedly in these letters to the girlfriend. So we're going to be chatting a little bit about that. But first, I do want to bring on, you know him, you love him, William J. Kelly. He's the Chicago reporter, feared and despised. I think that's an accurate statement by Lori Lightfoot. He's Emmy Award winning reporter out of Chicago. And I like meeting with him on Mondays to kind of go through what's gone on over the weekend in Chicago. Fill me in. What's going on in Chicago there, William J. Kelly? Thanks so much for joining the program.
God bless you and thank you. Kat, it has been, another brutal weekend in Chicago. 60 plus people shot in, August so far, last 6 days. An 8-year-old girl was shot in the head while Brandon Johnson was at the new mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, was at Lollapalooza. I was in federal court earlier this week, or last week, I should say, to try to get my media credential back. And the city of Chicago said that they weren't prepared for court because of Lollapalooza. Apparently, they're not prepared for 60 plus shootings either.
Oh my. So wait, you went to court, and this is over, of course, Lori Lightfoot revoking your media credentials, which I don't even understand it in of itself, William J. Kelly, because I was always under the impression that the Supreme Court has deemed that you don't need media credentials. What happens if you're an independent reporter, right?
Right.
A freelance journalist who doesn't really work for any kind of corporate structure and you do your own thing? Like, this is freedom of the press. You can be press if you want to be.
Right.
I mean, everybody has a phone. Everybody can report on their government if they so choose. You don't need to be paid by a corporate media outlet in order to do that, and to have freedom of the press. So I've always been confused about media credentials. Now, maybe for like a private event or something like that. But from what I understand, they revoked this, and this was a presser. So this was open to anytime there's a presser, when somebody takes questions from the pub or the press, that should be open to the public. No,
elected officials who get paid, who are paid with taxpayer dollars. This is, this is a First Amendment case. It's a classic First Amendment case, Kat, and it's very disturbing because it sets legal precedent, as you just stated. So it's not just about William J. Kelly versus Lori Lightfoot, who isn't even mayor anymore. It's about it's about you. It's about anyone who has a radio show or a platform, a reporter in any city or town or village around Illinois or around the country, who wants to keep their public officials accountable. This is, if you look at, reporter WilliamJKelly.com, you'll see that I was at City Hall press conferences. I was asking Mayor Lightfoot, basic questions. There were 60 people shot, 80 people shot, what's your plan? And she would go ballistic every time these videos went viral. There's no question. I was there, as a reporter, and it's an impossible argument that they're making that somehow, that I'm not a reporter. Obviously, I'm reporting for you here in the present moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it really was. I think that Mayor Lightfoot was approaching her reelection campaign. She saw that every week I was going viral. Tucker Carlson was having me on his show, repeatedly having me on his show, flying me out to do interviews with him on set. And she finally realized that yelling at me was not helping her reelection campaign. It was actually hurting her reelection campaign. Well, anyway, so here's the good news. The federal judge wasn't having any of it. She especially was not happy to hear the city of Chicago's attorneys say that they weren't ready, despite the fact that they knew that they were going to be in federal court. I didn't just show up last week in federal court. They knew this was on the calendar. So we show up, dressed for prom, ready to, do our, talk about, and the city of Chicago shows up and says that they're getting ready for Lollapalooza. So they need more time. So the judge was not happy with that answer. Well,
I would imagine that makes a mockery of, I don't know.
Yeah. And by the way, one thing I will say, don't try to, don't make a mockery of not only the First Amendment, but federal judges. Don't do that. That's not a good idea. And don't ever do that. So the judge was not happy with this. And she literally said, come back in 16 days. So get this, Kat. On the 16th, we're going to be back at the federal court, the Dirksen Federal Building. And then, I can only hope and pray that my media credential will be restored. It'll almost be a year to the day that it was revoked. You can't make this stuff up, and why would you want to, right? And in America, of all places. And then my plan is to jump in the car and head down to the Illinois State Fair, where you and I will be able to start interviewing our elected officials in person, Democrat and Republican, and getting some real answers to some real issues that are facing real people.
Exactly. No, you're exactly right, William J. Kelly. I can't believe that this is happening in the United States of America. That's hilarious. You have a Chicago prosecutor, and he goes, "Yeah, well, we were getting ready for the Lollapalooza."
I couldn't believe it. And
it's a concert. It's a concert, right? It's like some sort of music festival. And that took precedence over, I don't know, the First Amendment. This is a case regarding the First Amendment.
Yeah, and apparently it took precedent over an 8-year-old girl getting shot in the head. If I were mayor, I'll tell you right now, I would have immediately, if somebody had whispered in my ear that an 8-year-old girl had just been shot dead on the streets of Chicago, I would have said, I'm sorry, Billie Eilish, I gotta go, and I would have jumped in my car and I would have gone straight to the home of the parent of the girl, and I would have said, I'm so sorry, I don't know why this keeps happening in our city, but I'm gonna get to the bottom of it. But no, not our mayor, not Mayor Brandon Johnson, and on top of it, this is another 2 weeks. In theory, this is like a big victory, 2 weeks, and hopefully I get my credential back. This is 2 more weeks where I'm paying legal bills, So if anyone wants to help me with the First Amendment or help me, help you, I guess, reporter WilliamJKelly.com. There's a legal defense fund, GoFundMe. It's tax deductible, by the way, because it's all through a foundation, a legal foundation. If you want to help with that, please, $1, $20 would help tremendously, believe it or not. But yeah, it's been it has been a real, it's been an eye opener. It has, and I'm a Stoic, I guess you could say, in a way. I study I'm Catholic. But I'm also I study the ancient Greeks. I know that that somehow what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It makes you a better person. I think that this whole ordeal with the city of Chicago has actually, I was always patriotic. I always loved God. I always loved our law and order. But this whole ordeal over the last year in particular, coupled with the lockdowns and the looting and the endless violent crime on the streets, has really, I think, lit a real fire underneath me to try to, do some real hard-hitting reporting from the streets of Chicago, Kat. And thank you for keeping me alive over here, trying to, every weekend. Last weekend, there was another mass shooting that basically one day story. You have this flash mob of 400 youths in the city of Chicago trashing, the 7-Eleven and creating, shutting down the streets of Chicago once again, downtown Chicago, destroying, our economy. And Mayor Johnson, get this, at a press conference that I was excluded from because I don't have my official City of Chicago media credential, right? He said that he didn't like the fact that this was being referred to as mob violence because these children that were trashing, the city of Chicago are not in the mob.
Yeah, so I've got the exact quote here. It's That's not appropriate. We're not talking about mob actions. We have to be careful when we use language to describe certain behavior. There's a history in this city, and I mean to refer to children as like baby Al Capones. It's not appropriate.
But what wasn't appropriate was the fact that the mayor of the city of Chicago doesn't understand that mob action is an actual legal term, and 400 people trashing downtown Chicago is a textbook example of mob action. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, the fact that, and there wasn't a single reporter there who could literally if there was a reporter there that was even attempting to help him by pointing out that mob action is actually a legal term. People, it wasn't that people, were suggesting that these children were in the mafia. No, they were acting as a mob. Kat, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. This isn't just a bunch of silly kids. Oh, those silly kids. This is
right.
A clear. I don't know if it's to me. I don't know if it's necessarily an organized crime.
Right.
But it is mob action.
Yeah.
Like they're all working together to try to cause havoc. I mean, we've got the 17-year-old, he's using a machine gun in this 7-Eleven. It was a looting of a 7-Eleven in the city's South Loop. I'm reading the story here.
Right.
40 people were arrested. 37 of them were juveniles. 37.
Think about that. Yeah.
People looting this 7-Eleven. That's absurd. It's absurd. Yeah. And then what's more is that, we've got Brandon Johnson here. He's a black mayor, right? You would think that he would be more concerned about the homicide victims who are all black. 81 out of every 100 homicide victims have been black. Wow. It's 95 out of 100 when you include all minorities. So Hispanic as well. So it's 95 out of 100 homicide victims are of minority. And it's a shame. It's really
Lollapalooza. What I couldn't believe,
Lollapalooza.
It's a lifelong Chicago. Right. As someone who was born and raised on the south side of Chicago, I grew up believing that the mayor of Chicago was the most important job in the world. I honestly did. That being mayor was, the most important job, and I always thought that the mayor was someone who was worried about our health and safety. Clean, safe streets, and And to see the mayor of Chicago at Lollapalooza while we're off to 60 shot in August alone, the last 6 days, 27 dead, an 8-year-old shot in the head, while the mayor is, hanging out with Billie Eilish, who I'm sure I don't know who Billie Eilish. I wouldn't even recognize her if I saw her on the street. And I think that's the kind of mayor we need, a mayor who is more worried about shootings than celebrities.
Yeah. Yep. Well, William J. Kelly, we have got to take a break. But as always, thank you so much for joining me here on our Monday morning, catching up on all things Chicago. Folks, be sure to go check out the veteran Chicago reporter, feared and despised by Mayor Lori Lightfoot. I love that. Emmy Award-winning producer, Citizen Kelly. Go find him. And it's reporterwilliamjkelly.com. William, you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you, Kat.
Try to stay dry.
See you in Springfield.
See you in Springfield. Yeah, it's this week. I think it's Thursday is when everything kicks off, right?
Yes, indeed.
All right. I'll see you then. Folks, we are going to be back. We're going to be talking a little bit about Jamie Foxx. There's some drama there. People were calling him anti-Semitic for a post that really wasn't all that anti-Semitic. So, of course, he had to bend the knee to the left. Plus, Megyn Kelly, she savages this tabloid reporter. I'm excited to talk about that next. Wow. Just an incredible, explosive interview that I've done here with William J. Kelly about what's going on in Chicago. Ryan, I agree. William seems to be the only reporter who really gives a damn about victims and really gives a damn about minority victims. That number is staggering. Wire Points has it. It's 81 out of 100 homicide victims are Black, 95 out of 100 when you include all minorities. I'm going to throw that stat in the comments section. Just absolutely wild that this is happening in the city of Chicago. And we've got Brandon Johnson sitting there saying, oh, it's just a bunch of silly kids, and he said that these were silly kids who went, and there were hundreds of youth causing this latest mayhem in Chicago at a 7-Eleven in the city's South Loop. Fighting raged in the street. 40 people were arrested, 37 of them juveniles. That included a 17-year-old who was charged with felony unlawful use of a machine gun. Then we also had a 15-year-old charged with felony unlawful use of a weapon, as well as disorderly conduct and possession of a laser sight. A 16-year-old girl charged with unlawful use of a weapon and reckless conduct, causing bodily harm. Now, I just watched Jesus Revolution, and I don't know if y'all smash the like button if you've seen it. Smash the like button if you haven't seen it, if you've heard of it. So in the 70s, there were a lot of these kids, hippies, this younger generation. They were just lost and they were looking for something. And they typically went to drugs, acid, concert, Janis Joplin concerts, right? And they were looking for their answers in the use of drugs. Um, and I think what we're seeing here is an completely just lost young generation, especially in this inner city, and they have no idea what direction they should be going in. And really, what needs to happen is some sort of come to Jesus moment for a lot of these teens. It's not normal for a teenager, a 16-year-old girl to be, or a 17-year-old boy wielding a machine gun and blowing people away. Okay, that's not normal. And clearly, these kids have something going on to where they need to have some sort of direction, some sort of answer. They need answers. And really, where that comes from is God. God is their answer. And a lot of these kids, they're operating off fear, anxiety. And in the Bible, it says, fear not, probably about 366 times, one for every single day of the year, including the leap year. And what these kids really need is some sort of come to Jesus moment. And they need God. And I understand, Ryan points this out. It's so true. Single parent homes, no discipline. Yes. But you know where you will find discipline. You know who you will find who loves you, even if you don't have a parent who loves you or parents who love you. It's God. God, my father, brother, sister, mother, friend, it doesn't matter. Um, whatever you need, whoever you need, God can be that person. God can be that being. Um, and I really do think that these kids are really searching for something similar to that of the 70s, where you had all these kids going to these concerts and trying acid and, doing hardcore drugs. And I think we're seeing a repeat of history here where all of these kids are just searching for some sort of answers, and they're looking for these answers in all the wrong places. So smash that like button. We are going to be back talking about Jamie Foxx attacked, and he had to apologize for these anti-Semitic posts. I had to, if you ask me, I don't think it was really all that anti-Semitic. So I'm afraid to call it, but this might very well be the dumbest faux social media outrage. It's fake social media outrage in 2023. It's so dumb. Jamie Foxx shared this since deleted Instagram story that randoms on Twitter, and they thought it was all anti Semitic. It wasn't, but still, we have Jamie Foxx's PR team probably calling for this apology anyway. And somehow Jennifer Aniston got involved for reasons that are still confusing. I'm going to get through that here on the other side. You're listening to the Morning Buzz. Obama gay? What? So I have a story. It comes out of the Post Millennial, and I'm looking at it, and man, this is pretty damning stuff. Obama frequently fantasized about gay sex to an ex girlfriend of his, per this report. It looks like there was primary documentation as far as letters go. So he wrote letters, he wrote things to this ex girlfriend of his explaining how he fantasized about engaging with men sexually. Interesting stuff. I will be talking about that here coming up in just a little bit. Plus, these three little punks who attempted an armed robbery. Now, this was back in 2021, but it is exploding on the internet. I think it's over 2 million views. They wound up eating a Marine's fist instead. And, I just absolutely love when hooligans get exactly what they deserve. And a few things are more satisfying than watching thugs, punks, and hooligans get exactly what they deserve. And in this case, they were met um, by this big bad Marine, and they had to learn the hard way that, hey, attempting to rob people isn't a cool thing. And this video, like I said, from 2021, but it's making its way around the internet again. And it's only a few seconds, but it's racked up about 2 million views in less than a day. So in the video, you can see the former Marine disarming these armed robbers. And I'm excited to play that here for you coming up in just a little bit. But first, I do want to get into Jamie Foxx and his Instagram post that isn't all that anti Semitic, but people say that it's anti Semitic. So he was forced to kind of take it down, at least his PR team did. And, I'm sure with anybody with a functioning brain could look at this post and realize that this is something that he's going through. This is not a anti-Semitic post. So here's what the post said. Let's start off with this offending post. Offending, air quotes. They killed this dude named Jesus. What do you think they'll do to you? Fake friends, fake love. So he shared that out on his Instagram story, and it's since been deleted because some random people on Twitter thought that this was anti Semitic. It wasn't, but Jamie Foxx's PR team, of course, had to apologize anyway. So, what I'm assuming, Jamie Foxx, he had some issues with some fake friends of his, maybe fake love, some sort of fake friendship going on. And this actor, Jamie Foxx, is actually coming off of a life-threatening health scare. Some blame the jab, but I'll let you kind of parse through that information. But yeah, so there's been a lot of calls for privacy. Jamie Foxx has said, "We want privacy over this situation, over his life-threatening health scare." And one person could have broken that circle of trust. And somehow this got turned into an anti-Semitism thing. I'm not going to bother you with all of the tweets. I do have to take a break, but we're going to come back and I'm going to explain a few of these tweets that uh, try to pin this as some sort of anti Semitic thing. I just don't see it. Anybody with a functioning brain can see that this was not anti Semitic. Like, I don't even know how you get there. So I'm going to be back here explaining that. Plus, Obama gay, according to a new report. I'll be breaking that down here next. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much. Obama has been gay since his Senate days here in Illinois. At least that's what I've been told by more than one person that knows him. So, what I really thought was funny was JB Pritzker tweeting out for his birthday. Obama shares the same birthday as my dad. So JB tweeted out, he goes, "Happy birthday to my dear friend Brock." And, this came out, this tweet, at the same time I also read this report and that had come out that shares that Obama was writing letters to an ex-girlfriend detailing how he really wanted to engage with men sexually. I thought it was hilarious. Of course, Batman is gay or Obama is gay. Michael, Michelle can't be seen in the same room. Why? And I'll be right back. Whew, I would not wanna get into a fight with Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly absolutely destroying, this tabloid reporter for trying to challenge her credibility, and I really like this, clip because really what I wanted to share with you, this story, Megyn Kelly, going after this tabloid reporter. This tabloid reporter is big jealous over her, having this big podcast, and what it is, it's corporate journalismers who are, big mad and big upset that they are no longer dominating how we consume news. They're no longer the guys on the TV, right? And these people all have very inflated egos in these newsrooms and at these corporate journalisming places like NBC, ABC, MSNBC, all of them. They're big mad that Megyn Kelly is actually successful, and they went after her credibility. And I can't wait to get into all of that here on the Morning Buzz. Plus, Jamie Foxx attacked, apologizing for this anti-Semitic Instagram post that wasn't even all that anti-Semitic. He had to bend the knee to the left. More ahead on the Morning Buzz. Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. Like I said, Jamie Foxx, he had to bend the knee because of this Instagram post. Now, I'm just going to throw the Instagram post up here. This is directly quoting it. Here it is in the comments section. He posted it to his Instagram studio. They killed this dude named Jesus. What do you think that they'll do? They'll do to you? Fake friends, fake love. Um, so what I'm assuming is that somebody in his friend group betrayed him. He has recently gone through this life-threatening health scare, and some are blaming the vaccine. This has caused the Jamie Foxx and his family to ask for privacy, and they are asking for a lot of privacy when it comes to why he had this healthcare scare, and this life-threatening scare. They asked for a lot of privacy. Now, one person could have broken this circle of his circle of trust, and they could have gone out and, betrayed him. That's what I'm thinking happened with this Instagram post. Um, I don't know. but somehow these people turned it into an anti-Semitic thing, the leftists, and I'm not going to bother you with all of the tweets, but there were at least 3 idiots that had the same dumb opinion, which makes this story of a famous person being in hot water for saying a thing. Okay, this is one of those stories where, somebody who's famous says something is in hot water, and it's above the threshold here of 3 idiots at least having this same dumb opinion, so qualifies it as a story for or a story of, a famous person being in hot water. That's why I pulled it. And Eve Barlow said this on Twitter: "I'm Jewish, and I'm a Jewish advocate who fights anti-Semitism. Jamie Foxx's post was horrifically anti-Semitic message, rooted in classic blood libel and anti-Jewish conspiracy theory." What does that even mean? He has 16.7 million followers, and I'm not waiting on him to further expand. Wow. I don't know how this is. I don't know. I'm gonna throw it in the comment. Like, how is this anti-Semitic? I just don't get it. Um, is it hyperbole? Is it exaggeration? Yes. Right. I highly doubt that your friend is betraying you in a way that Jesus was betrayed, and the way that Jesus was treated. I highly doubt you've got that bad of fake friends, or somebody who betrayed you that badly there, Jamie Foxx. But exaggeration is different than anti-Semitism. So Jennifer Aniston, she's was accused of liking the Instagram post. So this is a whole nother can of worms. Here's where things get confusing, because while I know losers will troll posts to see who they can like shame. So if you like the post, then trolls try to um, find you, and then they try to like shame you. The people who like your Instagram stories are private, so you can't see who likes your Instagram story. So I don't understand how they even found out that Aniston liked the post. But Jennifer Aniston, who has proven that she won't be there for you, contrary to what the song says, "I'll be there for you." Right? She's in that TV series Friends. Um, Contrary to what that song says, she's not there for you, and she made her opinions very well known. And anybody who refuses to take the Fauci ouchie, she thinks that you are a conspiracy nut, and she's very pro-vaccine, like many other leftists in Hollywood and leftists in the media, and she took a very brave pro-vaccine stance. Not very brave at all. But Jennifer Aniston is now claiming that she didn't like the post on purpose or on accident. Pick one, Jennifer Aniston. Did you like the post or did you not? So I don't know. She's kind of embroiled in this, is this post anti-Semitic or not? I read it and I just don't understand how they got that this was anti-Semitic in some sort of way. Exaggeration, sure. Hyperbole, sure. But anti-Semitic? No. I just don't get it. Fox and Jamie Foxx and somebody on his PR team, they were forced to apologize, and this is what he said: "I want to apologize to the Jewish community and everyone who was offended by my post. I now know my choice of words have caused offense, and I'm sorry. It was never my intent. To clarify, I was betrayed by a fake friend, and that's what I meant with they, not anything more than that." So in the post, as you can see here, he makes reference, "What do they? What do you think they'll do to you? They killed the Jew." Oh my gosh, I don't see how that's anti-Semitic. Um, but yeah, so Jennifer Aniston, claiming that she didn't like the post, but she did. I don't know. People need to calm down. Anyone with a brain reads this post, and my first thoughts are not, and everybody's first thoughts are, this is not anti-Semitic. I don't see how you can get anti-Semitism from something like that. Okay, Megyn Kelly. She has a daily podcast, and it runs anywhere between 1 to 2 hours. And um, she said something on one of her shows that caused this leftist tabloid Daily Beast reporter to get in his feels over it, and he lashed out at Megyn Kelly's credibility. So I'm going to be talking about that here just a little bit. You're listening to the Morning Buzz. Be sure to smash that like button if you're watching right now. Go ahead and smash that like button. It would be of great help to me. Share this video out with your normie friends. We'll be back. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. Back in 2021, President Trump predicted wokeness would destroy the women's national team. 2 years later, they lost the World Cup. Let's take a listen to that prediction here on The Buzz. Here we go. Americans were happy about it. So that was back in 2021. President Donald Trump predicted that wokeness would destroy the women's national team. Nice shot, Megan, as he put out there on Truth Social. So I think she missed some sort of penalty kick, which, I mean, at that level, how are you missing a penalty kick? But when presented with a choice between two hypothetical Republican candidates, only 24% of the national Republican voters opted for a candidate who is focused on defeating radical woke ideology in our schools, media, and culture over a candidate who is focused on restoring law and order in our streets and at the border. So people say that Donald Trump is not against wokeism. He is against wokeism, okay? But he's also the candidate who is focused on restoring law and order in our streets and at the border. Now, Ron DeSantis, I'm sorry, only 24% of the national Republican voters opted for that candidate who focuses on defeating radical woke ideology in our schools. Ron DeSantis does very well with that. However, you've got to have both. And Donald Trump has both. And that's very clear by this tweet, or, well, Truth Social he put out there. The shocking and totally unexpected loss by the U.S. women's soccer team to Sweden is fully emblematic of what is happening in our great nation under crooked Joe Biden. And he goes, many of the players were openly hostile towards America. No other country behaved in such a manner or even close. Woke equals failure. Nice shot, Megan. The USA is going to hell. Make America great again. I love it. He goes, nice shot, Megan, in this Truth Social post. Yeah, they lost, and it's because you went woke. Sorry. Before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about Jamie Foxx here on the Morning Buzz. You can see me live in studio on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Twitter. I'm also available via our call line, 309-451-9299. You can text into the show and interact with me on the text line. So Jamie Foxx, he had this Instagram post, and I just read the Instagram post to you. It's not offending at all. I don't see how this was offensive at all. Quote, they killed this dude named Jesus. What do you think they'll do to you? Hashtag fake friends, fake love. So I don't see the anti-Semitism here. Maybe you do. Maybe you can help me. But some randos on Twitter said that this was anti-Semitic. I don't think it was. So at the end of the day, Jamie Foxx's PR team called for an apology anyway. This is just another case of him having to bend the knee to the left. People have to bend the knee to the left. And somehow Jennifer Aniston, she's in on this. And for it, the reasons for her being in on this is still kind of confusing. I'm gonna unpack that here, but anybody with a functioning brain, I think, can see that Jamie Foxx was talking about someone close to him betraying him. Now, was it hyperbole? Was it exaggeration? Do I like the post? No, I don't think that it's a very good post. I think that it's kind of dumb and it's a bit of hyperbole. Okay. I don't think your friends are that fake to where you can compare it. And in fact, I would say that it's more offensive to Christians because you're using the sacrifice of Jesus Christ and the betrayal he went through, and you're comparing it to whatever you're going through, man. But I don't think it warrants people taking to Twitter and losing their minds. I don't think it warrants some sort of apology. So he uses the hashtags fake friends, fake love. So obviously somebody close to him betrayed him. He is coming off of a life-threatening health scare. Now, a lot of people have kind of speculated that that's due to the jab, that the jab caused him to have this life-threatening health scare. There's no proof to that. That's all kind of speculation right now, but there have been a lot of calls for privacy coming from Jamie Foxx and his family, telling people, hey, please respect our privacy. Now, one person could have broken this circle of trust that he had. Maybe a friend of his knows his situation, knows what caused him to have this life threatening health scare and went public with that. Who knows? I have no idea. But point is, it somehow turned into an anti-Semitic thing. Right. So anti-Semitism. I'm not going to bother you with all of the tweets. Here's one from one idiot. His name is Yves Berlot. He says this on Twitter. I'm a Jewish advocate who fights anti-Semitism. Jamie Foxx's post was horrifically anti-Semitic. And this message was rooted in classic blood libel and anti-Jewish conspiracy theory. I just don't get it. I don't understand how you got all of that from the post that I just read. He has 16.7 million followers. I'm not waiting for him to further expand. So that's kind of the response that he was getting, that this was horrifically anti-Semitic. Jennifer Aniston, she was accused of liking the Instagram story. Now, this is where things get confusing because I don't understand how somebody found out that she liked the story because Instagram stories are private. You can't really find out who likes the Instagram story because I know that trolls, they'll go out there and they try to find out if they can like shame. So people who like certain posts, they'll go through and they'll find if you liked it and then they'll use that against you. But Jennifer Aniston, she has come out and she said that, you know, she's all pro-vaccine, that she is, all for the Fauci ouchie, as I like to call it, the Fauci ouchie. Like many leftists and media acolytes in Hollywood, she took the brave stance of being pro-vaccine. So I don't know. She's just not there for Jamie Foxx. Okay. She, contrary to I'll be there for you, she's in Friends. She's not there for anybody. She's there for herself. And this is clear because now she's claiming that she didn't like the post on purpose or on accident. So she's not saying whether or not she even liked the post. I don't understand. So Jamie Foxx, his PR team, they were forced to apologize. This is what the apology sounded like. I want to apologize to the Jewish community and everyone who I offended by my post. I know my choice of words have caused offense, and I'm sorry. That was never my intent. To clarify, I was betrayed by a fake friend, and that's what I meant by they, not anything more. So I don't know. I think people need to calm down. Anybody with a brain who read this post knew that it was an anti-Semitic. Maybe it was a bit of a hyperbole, but it was definitely not anti-Semitic. The main question here is, who is this fake friend? And does it have anything to do with his health scare? Did somebody betray his trust and go outside of his trust circle here and release what was what it was that caused him to have this life-threatening scare? That's why I pulled the story, because I find it interesting that he's got this fake friend out there. And I want to know, how did they betray you so badly to where you had to compare this to Jesus Christ being betrayed? um, yeah. So like I said, the outrage is hilarious. Do want to shift gears here. The journalism industry has been thrown into chaos. Now, with Tucker Carlson leaving Fox News, with all of these podcasters getting so big, conservative pundits, you can hear Dan Bongino here, his podcast reaches millions of people every single day. Megyn Kelly, she has a huge podcast too, and it reaches millions. But she talked about Bud Light. And what happened was this leftist tabloid called the Daily Beast, they started to attack her and her credibility. And because she started talking about Bud Light on her podcast, Keith Olbermann, he's in his kitchen at his kitchen table there, and he's screaming, "Pay attention to me! Pay attention to me!" So there was some Twitter beef that I wanted to get into. Megyn Kelly, I really like Megyn Kelly. I've read a couple of her books. She has this daily podcast that I do watch, and it runs anywhere between like an hour or 2 hours. And on one of these shows, she spent an entire whopping 8 minutes. Okay, out of 2 hours of content, she spends 8 minutes talking about Joe Rogan and Bud Light. And as it turns out, Joe Rogan can't decide if the Bud Light boycott is silly or if the company sold out the middle class customer base. So Joe Rogan, he's kind of a wishy-washy dude. I don't watch Joe Rogan. A lot of people like Joe Rogan because he's kind of a down the middle guy, and he's a fantastic interviewer. I'm not going to take anything away from Joe Rogan. He runs a top podcast. Like, it's a good podcast. I'm not trying to take anything away from it. Just not my cup of tea. So she talks about how Joe Rogan is kind of wishy-washy on this whole Bud Light boycott thing. And this caused the leftist tabloid, the Daily Beast, to lose their mind and to get in their feels over about 8 minutes of her podcast, right? So this is her podcast, and they lash out and they go after her credibility. So this leftist tweeted, his name's Jason. He says, "In just a few short years, Megyn Kelly went from one of the most sought-after, highly paid anchors in television news to a YouTuber devoting her time to raging out about woke beer, what woke beer another podcaster drinks." So they're trying to go after her credibility here. And then, of course, she fired back with this scathing tweet. She goes, "I fixed the headline with him. In just a few, for him. In a few short years, Megyn Kelly went from working to corporate D-bags," I can't say the whole word, who tried to ruin her career into launching her own media company and creating one of the top digital shows in the country, of which she has full editorial control. She continues to earn more than Jason, is his name, Bergona. I don't know who that is. He's a Daily Beast guy. And Keith Olbermann will ever gross in their lifetime. And she does this while happily married and raising her own children. So she goes after him, right? This is the new media age. Cable news, your corporate journalism, it is dead. It's done. People don't like it. The reason why Keith Olbermann was kind of brought into this tweet was because he was on the sidelines throwing water balloons filled with his own urine, and then the wind blew it back and caused it to splatter and splinter back at him and, in his house. And now his apartment smells both like cat pee and human pee. He's there and he's trying to chuck these water balloons, but it's filled with your own urine, man. And then the urine comes back. Keith Olbermann. I can't believe that he went, oh gosh. So he goes, or Megyn Kelly went from a highly paid moronic jerk, I can't say that word, who got a lot of money from NBC executive who never really bothered to examine her work and only hired her for her looks. And then everybody at NBC found out she was a moronic jerk. The end. That's what Keith Olbermann said from his kitchen table, where his apartment smells like cat pee, I'd imagine. But Keith Olbermann, he's criticizing her credibility here. And I just want to play this here for you. This is back that, like, Megyn Kelly has gone after Keith Olbermann before, and it's absolutely savage. This is not because of the most recent tweet. She's gone after him before on her podcast, and I want to share that with you because this is all you need to say. If a leftist comes after you like they do with Megyn Kelly, all you need to really say is, look at your life, man. Take a good look in the mirror. Here's Megyn Kelly. Here we go.
Even Keith Olbermann was saying similar things, comparing Tucker to a Nazi. He also, for good measure, decided to tweet about me because I said Tucker is going to be better off. without Fox and said something to the effect of, "You got fired from Fox and NBC. What would you know about it?" So first of all, you misstate the circumstances of my departure from NBC, sir. That's all I'm allowed to say about it. And as for Fox, there were widely reported facts that I was offered $100 million to stay there. But the record's very clear that I left voluntarily because I wanted to raise my family, something you don't know anything about, because no one would marry you and you have no children. You have a cold, lonely life in which you become a bitter, bitter man, something I wouldn't know anything about because my life is joyful and I've managed to raise my own children. And someday I hope you have that pleasure, but I don't have high hopes it's going to happen.
Megyn Kelly. Yes. So that's all you really need to do is just turn it right back around. Look at your own life, man. You might be inclined to feel bad for what Keith Olbermann has turned into. But then you remember that he's a ginormous jerk, and then you don't feel so bad for him anymore. So that was completely scathing. That was a while ago, but nothing nothing Keith Olbermann says will shake Megyn Kelly or any of these conservative pundit podcasters, because guess what? Corporate journalism is dead, and you're upset that people don't like your show because you allow your editorial control to be in hands of people like BlackRock and people like Vanguard, right? Like, come on. All right, I do want to take a break. We're going to come back. Former President Obama, Barack Obama, once wrote to an ex-girlfriend that he had fantasies about making love to men. This is an explosive report. It was revealed by this guy. His name is David Garrow, and he revealed this in an interview, and he's a biographer. So I'm going to be unpacking this. Obama gay? Question mark? Let's take a break. Is Obama gay? Question mark. Yes. So there are some letters, some primary documentation that David Garrow had revealed in this interview. In a letter to a former girlfriend, Obama allegedly confessed that he had repeated fantasies about engaging with men sexually. So the letter he received from this ex-girlfriend, Alex McNear, had an entire paragraph redacted. When Garrow asked, she responded that it was about homosexuality. So this ex-girlfriend of his knew what was in the letter, but this was all redacted in the letter. So we have no idea truly what that letter said. But Garrow said, this guy who revealed this, David Garrow, he's a biographer, said that around his book, Rising Star, came out in 2017, Alex McNear sold the originals, which ended up at Emory University, so some university somewhere. And Garrow said that this university got the letters, and they put out a press release stating that we got rare letters by Barack Obama, but did not mention any paragraphs that were too sensitive. So the writer sent his friend to the David Garrow, the biographer, sent his friend to the university archives, where he copied down by pencil the paragraph that was redacted, in which Garrow said was detailed in this letter that Barack Obama wrote to Alex, this girlfriend of his, about having these repeated fantasies about making love to men. So a few things here is that this story is absolutely nuts. I did not know this was like factually, I mean, somewhat factually true that Barack Obama is gay. It's always been kind of a running joke that Michelle Obama is a man. Now I will vote Democrat. I will vote for Biden if he like somehow manages to or if like someone manages to find me a picture of Michelle Obama pregnant, or can prove to me that she's a woman in some sort of way. But this was interesting because Barack Obama, actually, there's some factual evidence surrounding the idea that he is in fact gay. So Ryan, he brings this up. Mike and Michelle can never be seen in the same room. Is it because Mike, I guess, was some sort of a friend of Barack Obama's, and Michael is never seen in the same room as Michelle. So we're gonna get into this. I think that it's more so like tabloidy, and there's not a whole lot there other than, a paragraph to an ex-girlfriend kind of talking about this fantasizing about engaging with men sexually. I just found it interesting. If you're watching right now, go ahead and smash that like button. We're going to be back in just about a couple of minutes. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. You can text in at 309-451-9299. Be a part of the show. I like this text message, Kat. It was the Hebrews and their power structure that killed Jesus. The Romans only did what they wanted. I believe that's how it's being twisted to be anti-Semitic. The Jews killed Jesus. Yeah, I get all that, right? The history. I just think that it's a wild jump, and I'm sure that you do too, texter, who texted that in, to jump from, and clearly he's using these hashtags. He says fake friends. I think that he was using a bit of hyperbole here to suggest that his friends were betraying him like people betrayed Jesus and made a sacrifice of him, right? He was using hyperbole here. He said in this post, they killed this dude named Jesus. What do you think they'll do to you? Fake friends, fake love. So people are saying that that's an offensive post. I didn't find it offensive. I thought anybody with a functioning brain could see that this was clearly a post about somebody who's betraying him. Now, recently, this actor has been coming off of this life-threatening health scare. People have been speculating that, hey, perhaps this health scare is due to him being vaccinated. He took the jab. Now, there were lots of calls for privacy surrounding his health, Jamie Foxx's health, this actor. And one person could have broken this circle of trust and not been so private about that health scare, about that life-threatening health scare, and had come forward and said something about that health scare. That's what I think is going on. I don't know. I have no idea. But point is, he made a post about his fake friends. I think it's hyperbole, more or less. And I don't know, to jump from that post to, hey, this is super anti-Semitic, I just don't see it. Now, I do think that that is how they are trying to twist it to be an anti-Semitic thing, the Jews killing Jesus. So I don't know. It's a wacky story. I don't think he should have bent the knee, and his PR team definitely should not have apologized. Maybe take down the post, sure, because it didn't come off correctly. But to sit there and try to apologize, it almost like it affirms they're crazy. Their crazy jump to suggest that this post by Jamie Foxx was somehow anti-Semitic. I just don't see it. Now, before I took the break, I was telling you a little bit about our friend Obama, who is actually maybe gay. So he frequently fantasized about gay sex with this ex-girlfriend, according to this report. So Obama allegedly confessed to a girlfriend that he fantasized about engaging with men sexually. Now, here's the story. It comes from Post Millennial, and I'm going to be very, very clear. I think that this is more not a smoking gun, but it proves that when people say that he's married to a man, Michael or Michelle, whoever you want to call him, her, that there is some teeth to that, according to this primary documentation obtained by this university, actually. So, former President Barack Obama once wrote to an ex girlfriend about his fantasies about making love to men. Now, this was revealed by David Garrow, who is a biographer, and he revealed this in an interview last week. So, in this letter to this former girlfriend, Alex McNear, Obama allegedly confessed that he had repeated fantasies about engaging with men sexually. So the letter he received from McNear, Alex McNear, David, he's this biographer, had an entire paragraph redacted. So he's been trying to do this biography, probably about Alex McNear or Obama. I don't know. So he's been writing, but he obtained this letter from this ex girlfriend of Obama's, and there was an entire paragraph just blacked out. And then this biographer asks Alex McNear, this former girlfriend of Barack Obama's, "Hey, what's this blacked out paragraph? What is this?" And she says, "Well, it's about homosexuality." So he does some digging and he finds out that the former girlfriend sold the original letters that were written to her from Barack Obama to this university. Now, David, the biographer, who I think might be working on some sort of biography about Barack Obama or even the girlfriend, said that the university got the letters and they put out this press release at the time, back in 2017, when the girlfriend sold the original letters to the university, that, quote, "We've gotten these rare letters by Barack Obama, but they didn't mention anything about the paragraphs that were too sensitive or about the homosexuality in this press release. They just said that, yes, in 2017, we got these letters." So the writer, the biographer, David, sent his friend to the university to go get these letters and to copy down the redacted part of this letter in pencil. Or what was redacted by the girlfriend. So the girlfriend redacted these letters herself. So what happened was David, he kind of did some homework and went to the university to try to get the originals that weren't redacted. And then he had the friend copy down the letters because, I don't know, maybe you can't take the originals away from the university. But, quote, he said that, quote, "Barack Obama writes to Alex about how he repeatedly fantasized about making love to men." Hmm. So I just thought this story was very explosive. Now, like I said, uh, they copied down the redacted parts of this letter with pencil. It wasn't like the original letters themselves. So I don't know. I thought that it was worth bringing up because, when people say, and we've got all kinds of things going on with Obama's personal chef, some crazy things about how the logs were not accurately documented. Those 911 calls were not accurately correctly, I should say, correctly documented at the time where this personal chef of his drowned from God knows what. I don't know. There's a lot of questions, and this popping up about Barack Obama now. That's really, really, really interesting. So we're going to come back. Scott Robbins will join me for Scott's Takes. You're listening to The Morning Buzz. You can always see me live in studio, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and I'm also on Rumble. Megan Rapinoe. She missed I think it was a penalty kick, Scott Robbins, here on the Morning Buzz. And I mean, I was rooting against the women.
You know,
to be honest,
I'm getting slapped back, by the way, Kat. I'm in the echo chamber.
I'll check it out.
She has to fix something on the board and then whatever.
Slap back. You're good? Okay. Okay. I find out. I will find out. Okay. Is that better? Here we go. All right. I think that's good right now. Let's hope. Is that better? Yeah. Is it better? Oh boy. Test, test. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, 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 hello. Weird. Hello, 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 hello. Okay. All right. We're good now. Aldonzo and D's. No, it's actually not them. They have their yeah, we've got so many weekend shows. David Paul Blumenshine, Sunday 1 to 3, then Kevin Ferris 3 to 5, Aldonzo and D's 9 to 11.
The Team USA, the soccer team, earliest exit whatever in the history of women's soccer. And here's the thing, and Kat said you were rooting against them, and I get that because I think a lot of Americans were. A lot of Americans were. I was more of the, I don't care. I mean, I certainly am not. I'm not a fan of any player who makes themselves to be bigger than the game or the teammates. I don't care if it's baseball, football, whatever it is. Jackassery doesn't play well with me. And she is absolutely the biggest jackass on the team, maybe even in sports. So did it trouble me they lost? No. I think it's good for USA Soccer that you can get rid of that awful element, that poisonous element off your team and be done with it and get back to doing what you do. And that is to play soccer. Because I think there were a lot of women on that team who would look around and feel almost like she was the bully of the team, like you just did what she told you to do. You know, and then they would participate with her, not really having their heart in it, but because she's Megan Rapinoe, right? Well, they lost. And it was her kick, the final kick that sailed way past the goal that sealed the deal for Sweden. So, of course, Hillary Clinton came out and said Sweden is an illegitimate winner. She'll be saying it for the next 4 years, by the way. just so you know. I've been saving that one for a while.
Oh, boy.
And Rapinoe's going to go to work for UPS, since she's an expert at air mailing. There, I'm keeping both those in the set, and you'll hear them both again today on the Markley, Van Camp and Robin show. I guarantee it.
I love it.
I worked all morning on those. Another thing, did you happen to see Chris Christie with Zelensky? Chris Christie went to visit Zelensky.
I didn't see it,
I don't know why.
But I could imagine what it was all about. I don't know if it was as bad as Mike Pence saying that we need to send more or we need to send as much as it takes.
Can we just be rid of Mike Pence now?
Yes, please.
I mean, can we just be rid of it? Can he be like the Kamala Harris of the Republicans and just drop out before the primary? I mean, there's no traction there. Who's voting for Mike Pence? I mean, I'm asking a legitimate question. Who's voting for Mike Pence? Who's voting for Chris Christie?
Absolutely no one.
Both these clowns. I mean, who's voting for either one of these guys?
Who are you?
No one is.
No one.
Exactly right. I mean, who is he talking? Who are either one of them talking to? Who are they connecting with? Chris Christie? Yesterday's news 4 years ago. But anyway, he went to the Ukraine. He took Zelensky a handwritten lyric of Bon Jovi's song "It's My Life." I'm not making that up. He delivered a handwritten lyrics to the song "It's My Life," gave them to Zelensky in the Ukraine, hoping it would motivate him and inspire him. You know the song, don't you, Kat? You've heard it.
Yes. It's my life. It's now. Right. Yes.
No, right. Yes, that song.
What?
I mean,
this is how you know it's all theatrics with President Zelensky. The guy is just running around in his cargo shorts and he's not like he goes to these balls and like these speaking arrangements, and you're not in a war-torn country anymore. Like even when
Right.
he's here in the United States testifying before Congress for more money, he's sitting there with his cargo shorts on. That's how you know it's all theatrics. This is ridiculous for a presidential candidate to go to a war-torn country and give him some sort of lyrics to a Bon Jovi song.
To a Bon Jovi song. I mean,
inspiration?
did he bring chocolate and roses? I don't,
Like if
what
he
is
was
hap-
actually going through this war, not that I'm denying the war, but like I just don't get it. I don't know.
Well, he had an opportunity there to deliver a mixtape, and he didn't. That they could have swooned to later that evening.
Because we
Gosh
know he's not
dang.
making it as president. Maybe he can make it as some sort of.
Remember when he had the bypass surgery, Christy?
Yeah.
They lost the weight and then gained it all back again.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy, at this point in time, he's just annoying. He's like the fly buzzing around your ear. Just go away.
Where's Lizzo? She's supposed to be fat shaming Chris Christie and getting sued for it.
Well, I mean, if Christie was smart, she'd be the running mate, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Chris and Lizzo. Also, there's a strike going on at a Cinnabon in Los Angeles. Guy that owns them, he owns 16 Cinnabons in the LA area. So he's one of those guys. A lot of these guys, they buy franchises, get successful, buy another one, buy another one, buy another one. And then they, get ready for retirement age or whatever, sell them all out, and they're on their way. So this guy owns 16 Cinnabons right now in LA. And what he did was he sent an email out to all the employees and said, hey, no more Pride stuff inside the store, okay? And he said, listen, I respect everybody's sexual preference. I respect everybody's religion, their race, whatever, but let's not do it in the store. And since I own the store, I kind of make the rules. I'm not violating anything here. No law I'm violating. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Well, the reaction. They went nuts. Mm-hmm. So one of the stores, they essentially closed down with the striking thing going on. And they say they'll continue to until they get their day in front of a judge, or they're trying to, and they'll get an attorney to take it. They always do. But all the guy said was, hey, man, I don't care what race you are. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what sexual preference you have. Just not in my store. It's not what we do here. And I own them, and I get the final say so. Well, that's not good enough, because he's homophobic, or he's racist, or he's whatever he is. He can't make a decision on what to put in his store, or not to put in his store in this case, that some of his customers may be offended by. So he is sensitive to that. Like, hey, we don't play politics here. This isn't our game. This isn't what we do. We make cinnamon rolls.
It's a Cinnabon. Tell me again how sexual orientation, LGBTQ, whatever, plays into selling Cinnabon?
Cinnamon rolls. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Well, it reminds me of that one story. I don't know if you saw it. It was this woman. She was banned from a hospital in Portland. And I know your guys' show is based out of Portland. I don't know if you guys saw it, but this woman was banned from the hospital and denied cancer treatment because she took issue with this huge transgender flag at the reception desk of this hospital that's supposed to treat cancer. And I'm just thinking to myself, what does LGBTQ trans ideology have to do with treating people for cancer? Right? And she said it made her uncomfortable.
But again, this is the world we live in. You accept it, or this is what you are. Mm-hmm. We'll refuse treatment, which I don't know legally you can do that or not either. We'll see where that one goes.
Yeah.
Cinnamon rolls and cancer treatment. Holy cow. Two things that are so far apart, it's unbelievable. But what do they have in common, right?
You have to bend the knee.
I mean, people just are not going to do it. And this guy's like, no, I own the stores. I'm not doing it. You want that kind of thing? Then buy a franchise. Mm-hmm. Do what you want. That's a great thing about America, Kat. If you're working somewhere and you don't like working there, you're always free to go and get another job. And outside of that, you can sometimes take that knowledge with you and build your own little business while you're at it. Like, I don't want to run a business like that. It's a learning experience, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when Kat buys a radio station and we all go work there, then
We all go work there. Yeah, I'm
Things will
going
be
to. I'm gonna
fantastic.
make sure that everybody has their gay pride pin promptly on their
Well,
pinned
yeah.
promptly on their
Well,
shirt. You know, and
it's the right
you're
thing
not
to do,
allowed
you
into
know.
the building if you
No,
don't
you
have
got
a
to
gay
think. You
pride
got to
pin.
think like we do, and if you don't think like we do, then we're going to punish you for it. That's right. Okay. All right.
Crazy
Cat
one.
had a super swell. Is it going to rain anymore? Or are we done with rain?
It's raining on and off until about 11 a.m. and then I think it's going to subside for a little bit. But then we've got storms later in the week. So,
Yeah. Well, farmers are happy right now.
oh yeah, we need it.
Very
rain.
happy. Yep, we do. All right. Talk to you later. See you.
See you later, Scott Robbins. Scott Robbins for Scott's Takes. It's every morning on the Morning Buzz at 7:35. He's back at 8 o'clock for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. Catch Scott Robbins on Cities 92.9.
This news is being brought to you by.
The news is brought to you by me, Ryan Scritzel of Scritzel Slabjack. Here's some news. Most people wait until they trip and fall on sunken concrete before they call me. So call me before that happens, and I'll level with you on how to fix it.
Good morning.
Governor
Pete.
J.B.
Thanks so much
Pritzker
for
signs
tuning
a
in.
bill
If
that
you're watching,
expands
go ahead
the
and
Central
smash
Illinois
that
Regional
like button,
Airport
smash the
Authority.
like button.
They
Share
can
this
now
out.
tax people who
Friends,
live outside of
we are
Bloomington
going to be
Normal
getting into this
throughout the
story
entire
for the
county.
month.
NPD is investigating
Armed
after two people were injured
armed
in a shooting
robbery,
incident
and
about
what they wound
3:30
up doing
a.m.
was
Sunday
eating
in the
a
200 block of
fistful
Lindell
marine-
Street.
like a
No information
marine
was available as
fist.
far as the
That's
suspect,
essentially
and no
what wound up
arrest made
happening.
at this point.
So these
El Paso
three
Police
suspects
Department
in
said a man was
Arizona,
arrested as a result of a
and
sting
now this
operation
is a
Saturday
video
evening.
from back
Corporal
in
Fouch, 51, took
but
a train
it's
from St.
starting to
Louis,
make its
had
rounds
arranged to
on the
meet
internet
two
again.
girls, 15 and 16, in El
viral videos
Paso.
do
Fouch is
sometimes.
charged with 2 counts of
this
indecent
go-around
solicitation of
makes
a
racked
minor,
up 2
traveling to
million
meet a
views
minor,
less than a
sexual
day.
exploitation
So
of a
there's
minor,
this
grooming
former
of a minor,
Marine, and
distribution
I
of
will show
harmful
you the video
materials to
here
a
in
minor, and
about
child
2
pornography.
seconds.
No minors
Long
were ever used in the
of
sting
this former
operation.
Marine
And federal judge Ian Johnston has
punching
blocked
these
a new
idiots. I
Illinois
have
law
to
that
look
allows
at
the
stuff
state to
happening
penalize
because,
anti-abortion counseling centers
they get
if they
exactly
use deception to interfere with patients
very
seeking the
rare where we
procedure.
actually
The
get to
judge
see that
said Thursday
play
the new
out,
law
where
is
criminals
painfully and
get
blatantly a
pictures
violation of the
especially
First Amendment.
being
News on the air, on the web,
state
on
of
your app, and on
Illinois.
Alexa. I'm Tom
Take a
Davis.
walk.
Here's the Bloomington
They come
Normal
in,
forecast
free
on
talk.
Cities 92.9.
I'm Scott Meteorologist John
Late
Weatherby.
in
Showers and thunderstorms likely early.
have
Slight
been
chance of showers midday.
and
Later,
he
mostly
doesn't
cloudy,
even
gusty
care
northwest wind 76.
about the
Partly
gun.
cloudy for
He just
tonight
goes-
as we dry out, low
He just
61.
says, you know what?
is being brought to you by Bab
Be your
Service.
gun,
When your AC
and
isn't
grab it,
keeping you
punch you in
cool,
the
don't
face.
get mad.
Here's
Call Bab
mom.
Service.
They
They'll
all
cool
cut.
things down in a hurry.
So
when
this
something
is
in your
one
home
of those
doesn't work,
stories
call
that I
Bab
absolutely
Service.
just love.
Look for the name
because
you
can
know. When your family or
see
business
these
needs
hooligans
protection,
getting
choose
exactly
the names
what
you know.
they deserve.
MEGYN and Troxel
Cameras
Insurance.
everywhere.
Life
Makes
can
for
throw
great
you curves.
content.
You need a local insurance agent you can count
and
on.
This is Aaron
I
Jones.
think that
And
it's
Chad
better
Toma
when these
with Troxel
hooligans have a
Insurance,
weapon
and we've
and
been
the
helping
person
folks
they're
in McLean
messing
County
with
find affordable
just has their
insurance
hands
solutions
and
for
they don't
business,
care
home,
and they are willing
life,
to
and
go
auto for years.
On the
A lot
web
of
at
times when we engage in
troxelins.com.
even
Troxel
a
and
little
Beacon
bit.
Insurance.
They're not
2 names
expecting
you
it,
can
and
count
then
on.
they just panic. So this was
Hey,
a
this is
convenience
Daniel
store
from
in
LKM
Arizona
Lawn and
with 3 little
Landscaping.
punks,
Warm weather brings countless opportunities to be
met a
outside.
big
Why
bad
not
rain
enjoy
and they had
every
to learn
step
the hard way
outdoors
that you
with a
don't go
beautiful
into
outdoor space for your
convenience
friends and
stores
family
that
to
run
enjoy?
them at
LKM
center.
Lawn and Landscaping can help
Um,
you design,
so
build,
that's gone
and
viral.
maintain a patio, deck,
Um,
fire pit, and many more outdoor elements. Enjoy
you
your
know,
backyard all day with
I
sun
just
shading
think
aspects
that
and
this
entertain around
is
your
where
patio
it's
all
here.
night with
Now,
energy
I
efficient
do
landscape
also
lighting. Browse design
little bit
ideas at
about,
lkmlandscaping.com today.
Is your prostate secretly being destroyed
Dark
without you
Brandon,
knowing
there
it?
was this
All
Dark
the ads for
Brandon
these
meme.
prostate pills like
Man, the
Super
show's
Beta
going by
Prostate,
quick.
Saw Palmetto,
quick.
Prostastream, Prostagenics, and others. Want to
It's-
know
they're
which
trying to
pills work
resurrect
and which are
this Dark
garbage?
Brandon
Now
meme, and
you
I don't
can.
quite
Get a
get
free
it.
copy of the new guide,
So
Prostate Secrets, that
Joe
pulls back
Biden
the
was
curtain
out
on the
there,
prostate pill industry. Learn what is really in these
filming,
pills.
and
Which pill
the
has over
official Democrat
987
Party
adverse
filmed
event
him for about
reports
9
filed
seconds.
against
He's
it
got,
with
like,
the
a cup of
FDA.
coffee
It's
and it's a mug,
shocking. Learn
and
the one
he's
food
got
to
his face on
avoid
the
that is a
mug,
prostate
and
killer, and
the
discover the
face
3 so-called
has
health
the
foods
eyes
that
kind of
destroy your
replaced with
prostate.
these
Get your
bright
free
red,
copy
like,
at
lights, like glowing
prostatesecrets.com.
red
That's
eyes.
prostatesecrets.com. This
that was
free
really
guide will show
interesting.
you how to end your prostate problems without
they're trying
drugs
to
or
resurrect
surgery.
this
Buy
Dark
the
Brandon
important
meme.
things to do to protect
We
your
are going to be
prostate, and
talking
much
with
more.
Jerry
Warning,
Vogler here
this
in
guide
the
is
8 o'clock hour.
controversial and may be
Be
offensive
sure
to some
smash
readers
the
as it
like
pulls
button
no
and share
punches.
this video
So go
out
to
with your friends.
prostatesecrets.com. Prostatesecrets.com.
Hey, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. It's a rainy Monday morning. Wake up, pray up. If you guys want to be a part of the show, you can be by texting the word or texting into 309-451-9299. 309-451-9299. Now, I do have a question for you. Did you want the women's national team to lose because they just lost the World Cup? This is President Donald Trump predicting that wokeness was going to destroy the U.S. women's national team. And I think Megan Rapinoe was actually the one who missed a penalty kick. So they lost the World Cup a couple of years after the fact. We had President Donald Trump predicting that wokeness would destroy the women's national team. Here we go.
Wokeism makes you lose, ruins your mind, and ruins you as a person. You become warped. You become demented. The U.S. women's soccer team is a very good example of what's going on. Earlier this week, they unexpectedly lost to Sweden 3-0. And Americans were happy about it. You proved that point before I even said it.
There you have it. Donald Trump predicting that this would happen. And I mean, he went out there on Truth Social and he made a whopping post. He says, the shocking and totally unexpected, not so shocking, not totally unexpected loss by the U.S. women's soccer team to Sweden is fully emblematic of what is happening to our once great nation under crooked Joe Biden. Many of our players were openly hostile towards America. No other country behaved in such a manner or even close. Woke equals failure. Nice shot, Megan. The U.S. is going to hell. Make America great again. I love that Truth Social post. I was rooting against him the whole entire time. Now I am going to be back. It's going to be Veterans Corner with Jerry Vogler. We're going to run through that. Plus, one thing that I want to talk about is Joe Biden trying to resurrect this Dark Brandon meme. And this video reaches unprecedented levels of cringe. Joe Biden is out there trying to resurrect this like Dark Brandon meme. At least his handlers are. So I'm going to be talking about that here coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. This is the Morning Buzz.
With Fox Radio News on Cities 92.9.
Good morning, Heath.
WRPW,
Thank you so
Colfax,
much
Wilmington,
for
Louisville.
tuning
It's
in.
8
I
o'clock.
do appreciate it.
As the judge waits, Trump posts.
Okay.
I'm Dave Anthony,
one
Fox
thing that
News.
I
The
wanted
former
to get
president
to
minutes ago
was
took
the
aim at the special
comments
counsel who's seeking a
in
protective order in the election interference indictment.
is
Again, on Truth Social, calling Jack Smith deranged, saying he has thug prosecutors illegally leaking everything to the media, and he wrote the judge must be removed from the case. That judge has given Trump lawyers till 5 p.m. Eastern today to respond to the order request that followed the Trump post Friday. If you come after him, he'll come after you.
His lawyers up there saying, oh, that's just a matter of him expressing his First Amendment rights. That's deranged.
That's Democratic Congressman Jamie Raskin on NBC's Meet the Press. A fourth Trump indictment may loom in Georgia related to the 2020 election. Fulton County DA Fannie Willis has put barricades up around a courthouse. Trump lawyer Alina Habba just told Fox.
She has been waiting for years for an opportunity to have her moment, as I would call it. And I think we see that a lot with corrupt DAs and AGs.
A nightmare on a Pennsylvania highway near Harrisburg. Just before midnight, a bus crashed into a car. 3 people were killed, dozens of other passengers injured.
The bus was carrying up to 50 people. It was raining heavily at the time, and the bus flipped onto its side after colliding with that other vehicle. At least 8 ambulances were needed to rush passengers to a hospital.
Fox's Evan Brown, 2 wildfire fighting helicopters crashed in midair in Riverside County, California.
The first helicopter was able to land safely nearby. Unfortunately, the second helicopter crashed, and tragically, all 3 members perished.
Cal Fire Southern Region Chief David Fulcher says the 3 killed were a Cal Fire chief, a Cal Fire captain, and the pilot. The last ex-Minneapolis police officer charged in state court in George Floyd's much protested death faces sentencing today. Tao could get 4 years in prison for aiding and abetting. Tao already got 3.5 years on a federal civil rights charge. Of course, Derek Chauvin was convicted of murder and put in prison. America's listening to Fox News.
The Tunnel to Towers Foundation has been supporting America's heroes and their families since September 11, 2001, like the family of Franklin, Tennessee police officer Jeffrey Carson. He left a successful country music career behind to serve his community. Then he lost his life in the line of duty. Tunnel to Towers helped his wife and son by paying off their mortgage. Help support hero families like the Carsons. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
Hey, it's Jesse Kelly. When a restaurant closes, my reaction is, that sucks.
Right? And I'm
they
no
had good
Jamie
steak.
Foxx fan. I'm
When
not,
regional banks
sticking up for
close,
Jamie Foxx
or
in
3 of them
any
close
way. I just found
overnight, it
hilarious
freaks
that
me
we're
out.
talking
This is why I have
how
my
that's the
own
interest
personal gold
How it's
reserve.
gotten so
It's
much
part of my
traction
personal
in media,
protection plan.
and
Call my
social
friends
media
at Oxford
spheres.
Gold
Like,
Group.
this is like
Call
the talk as the town, where, like, people are like,
833-404-GOLD.
oh, did you hear that Jamie Foxx is anti-Semitic?
833-404-GOLD.
He
That's
literally just posted something that was like
GOLD.
hyperbole at
Cities
best.
92-second news brought to you by
I don't know.
Driscoll
It was
Motors,
just
your Chevrolet,
bizarre.
GMC, and Buick dealer in Pontiac. Meet the team and shop the new and pre-owned inventory. Driscoll's, your did it, done it, and still dealing dealer.
Federal Judge Ian Johnston.
How's that sound? Better? Sorry about that. The news radio feed was playing over me. Thank you, TK. A bunch of monkey buttons this morning. I'm gonna get it figured out and fixed. But over the weekend it tends to be kind of monkey buttony. So I'll get it fixed here by the 8 o'clock hour. Are you guys drinking your coffee? We'll be back here with Jerry Vogler next to go through Veterans Corner. You're listening to the Morning Buzz. Be sure to share this out with your friends. Barack Obama, we're going to get to him and how I think he's gay. According to this new report, there were primary documents that suggest that he was struggling with homosexuality. Megyn Kelly savages this tabloid reporter for trying to challenge her credibility. Keith Olbermann's over there chucking water balloons, and it's just like he's having a full meltdown on the sidelines here. And the point is, the reason why I don't pull this is because you, like Megyn Kelly, you're dealing with leftists who attack you for literally no reason. And truly the only reason I think that they've got is because they're jealous. So we're going to listen to Megyn Kelly go after this tabloid reporter. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Let's go, Brandon. You guys remember this from 2021. This was a big deal. So I guess there was a guy, his name was Brandon. He won this NASCAR race. And, you know, a lot of people were at these football games, at the NASCAR races, and they were chanting blank Joe Biden. I can't say the actual word, FCC. Okay, so blank Joe Biden, blank Joe Biden. And they were chanting these at football games. Some guys who had way too many beers before the game, right? They started this back in the beginning of September of 2021. So this is really like caught on at this point. And then there was this NASCAR race and the crowd, of course, chanting blank Joe Biden, blank Joe Biden. Now, there was a reporter interviewing this guy who won the NASCAR race. His name was Brandon. And she points out, she goes, "Oh, I can hear the crowd chanting. They're saying, 'Let's go, Brandon.'" That is not what they were saying. They were saying blank Joe Biden. And that's when things really took off. And now Americans, we have this very family-friendly way of expressing how Joe Biden is a failure of a man and how he sucks at life. There were even songs written about "Let's go, Brandon." Let's go, Brandon. There were so many different things that had come from this Brandon meme. Really, it's a "Let's go, Brandon" meme. Now, what is going on today, we've got Joe Biden trying to resurrect this dark Brandon meme in this really cringy video. So it's like 9 seconds, and I'm sure it took them a billion takes. But I'm going to walk you through what the dark Brandon meme is and why Joe Biden, if you find this video on social media, it's making its rounds, why Joe Biden has a mug of his face on it with these bright red eyes. And, you know, he says, "I like my coffee black," or something like that. Or, "I like my coffee dark," is what he says in this video. And it's a campaign video. It's released by the official Democrat Party on TikTok. So I'm going to have to explain that because it's very cringy. And I mean, I can barely roll my eyes. I think that they were trying to kind of get a rise out of the Republican Party, out of conservatives or whatever, as like, hey, this is a dig. This is a in-your-face dig because we're indicting his political opposition, and this is an in-your-face dig. Now, I'm not outraged by it. I'm just like itchy. Whenever I see this video of Joe Biden, I just get itchy. Like my clothes like start to itch on me. Now, joining me, Jerry Vogler. We're going to get to that story in just a moment, folks. But Jerry Vogler joining me for Veterans Corner. Now, there's something going on today, and it's Purple Heart Day, Jerry Vogler. So tell me where we've got to go today.
Well, in 2014, officially, National Purple Heart Day was created. It's on August the 7th every year. And the ceremony, we're going to, the American Legion here in Bloomington Normal, going to hold a brief ceremony on the east side steps or inside in case of rain of the McLean County Historical Museum. This is to honor those young men and women who died from combat injuries while serving or were wounded in a combat role while serving in the military. And it's a ceremony that is long past due in this community, and we're going to start doing it every year. But the Purple Heart is what we're talking about. It is the one single award that nobody who has ever gone into the military service wanted to be awarded because it means you were injured or killed. However, it is one we need to recognize those sacrifices that were made that actually they got the reception of the award for. It was originated in, I believe, about 1782 for George Washington by the Continental Congress, and they decided that they needed an award because they had a lack of money to be able to give the land grants that they were giving to the generals in the Continental Army. Without the money, they decided to give a meritorious service award. It stayed that way through the Revolution, and finally it was kind of lost because other awards like the Bronze Star, the Silver Star, and so forth were created. It was resurrected in 1932, really at the insistence of General George MacArthur, or Douglas MacArthur, who wanted something to recognize in the current war situation in pre-World War II, to recognize the meritorious service and those who were injured. And finally, in 1944, the criteria were totally changed to recognize those who were killed or wounded in combat roles. So it is something that we're going to be reading off a list of the Purple Heart Award recipients here in the area, which will occur at 11 o'clock, weather permitting. It'll be outside. Otherwise, it'll be inside the rotunda or one of the courtrooms in there. So it's something we're looking forward to recognize it. Anybody that wants to come out is certainly welcome, and especially if they have a Purple Heart member in the family. So it's a day of recognition and remembrance.
Wonderful. And we do have a question coming in for the Veterans Corner today, and this happens every Monday at about 8 a.m. We visit with McLean County Superintendent of the VA to kind of go through some of the questions he gets for the Veterans Corner. My husband, who was a Vietnam War veteran, passed away recently. Friends of mine have told me that the VA might be able to provide some sort of financial assistance to help cover the burial and funeral expenses. Am I eligible for this type of assistance? Your answer, Jerry Vogler.
That's one of those questions that you almost have to answer depending on the circumstances, yes or no. To be eligible for a veteran's burial allowance, if there is payments that have to be made for the burial and funeral costs, you may be reimbursed. However, you would not be eligible if some other organization, like another government agency or veterans employer, was already paying those expenses. Also, you have to meet some other requirements, just as you do for a Social Security stipend at the time of death if the person is drawing Social Security benefits. One of the requirements is you have to be the surviving spouse or a family member that has paid for the expenses and so forth of the burial and the funeral. Also, the VA is recognizing same-sex marriages for that purpose. Also, if the veteran did not receive a dishonorable discharge, that's the criteria for the award, basically. If the person has a dishonorable discharge, that benefit is not available. So that's how it works. There is a website. If they go to va.gov and put it in burials and memorials, it'll pop up and they can see all the criteria. And this would apply to even burials that have happened in the last 12, 14 months, something like that. They'll honor those if they put the request in for it.
Wonderful. And Jerry Vogler, there's another question that I wanted to get to today for our Veterans Corner. My deceased husband, who served in the Army, passed away several years ago and was buried in our family plot. We have a vertical grave marker, but there is no engraving that indicates that my husband was a veteran. Will the government provide a different grave marker with veteran indicated on it so the local veterans group will know to put an American flag on it on patriotic holidays? So can you tell us about this? How is this woman get help with the grave marker?
This is another VA yes and no type answer. First of all, the cemetery has to approve it. Some cemeteries, depending on how they're set up with vertical markers as well as horizontal ones, do not allow a separate marker for an individual. It's something to do with maintenance and so forth. The VA has no control over that. However, if the cemetery allows it, there's a form 40-1330, which is grave markers and burial markers that set up the rules on how it applies. The person, the veteran, can have a granite marker, a marble marker, or a cast bronze marker. Details have to be worked out with the cemetery and so forth, obviously, ahead of time. Now, if the cemetery doesn't permit that to have a separate marker besides a vertical headstone, then there is, in the last 10 years or so, the VA has come up with a medallion, a veteran's medallion, that can be sent directly from the VA with verification of death and veteran status. It comes with its own epoxy kit, and it can be epoxied right on the headstone, which then allows the veterans organization to replacing flags to recognize that there is a veteran buried there, and they'll put a flag on there. So it comes up every year. It's quite a big deal because the field of flags at cemeteries on patriotic holidays is very respectful and just a great recognition of those who served.
I see. All right. So we've got one more question. Time for one more. I served in the Navy during the Vietnam War. I just received a letter from the VA concerning the PACT Act. It indicates that the VA sent the letter because I might be eligible for service-connected disability compensation under the PACT Act. Now, I'm confused about how to consider what it says and what I should do about it. So really, what is the PACT Act?
Okay, well, the PACT Act is what was passed last August, which expanded the types of veteran service in mainly Southeast Asia during the Vietnam War that weren't included in the original Agent Orange look at how the use of Agent Orange had affected members who had served in Vietnam. Used to have what they called boots on the ground, actually physically touch Vietnam. Then they expanded that out to 12 miles from the coast, territorial waters, for the Blue Water Navy people who didn't get on land. And now under the PACT Act, they've extended it to places like Thailand, which we had a lot of Air Force bases over there, and we used Agent Orange there also, as well as American Samoa, Guam, Johnson Atoll, and a number of other locations that were not in Vietnam, but were in the service for that area. This PACT Act letter, it's legit. That's the first thing that comes up, and we've already received about a half a dozen inquiries about it because there's a lot of fraud going on now for veterans. This PACT Act letter basically says you've been identified, that veteran, to having served in one of the areas now covered by the PACT Act. If you're interested in filing for compensation, contact this telephone number and we'll walk you through the process and let you know whether you were included in the changes to the PACT Act. It is a very, very big deal because people that served in Thailand, which there were thousands, supporting the airstrikes that came from Thailand into Vietnam, have been shut out for any kinds of service-connected disability claims. So this is a great part of the PACT Act, which a lot of people have kind of overlooked because it also concentrates on the burn pit, Camp Lejeune water, a number of different types of hazardous exposures besides just the Agent Orange expansion.
Okay, I see. So, real quick, Jerry, we are getting close to the end of our time here. We're getting close to a break. Tell me about this quote of the day for our Veterans Corner.
Well, America has a fierce battle in front of it. Are we going to accept our failures in our past and strive to correct our shortcomings and return to respect and believe in our nation and our way of life? Or are we going to go the way of extinction like the Goonie bird? And patriotism really is the key. And I quote Mark Twain here that, quote, the modern patriotism, the true patriotism, the only rational patriotism is loyalty to the nation at all the time.
There you go.
Loyalty to the government when it deserves it. And that second part very nicely balances off of Mark Twain's intention on comparing the two things. You don't necessarily have to agree with the government or support the government, what it's doing, but you should never forget that we're the greatest nation on earth and we should respect and believe in that.
Exactly. Yep. And, I can't think of any better quote than today coming out of this U.S. National women's team, right? The bending of the knee, the hating of America, right. Very blatant disrespect to the United States. And yeah, the only true, I like how the true patriotism, the only rational patriotism is loyalty to the nation all the time. So I love it. Jerry Vogler, you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining me here on Veterans Corner Monday morning at 8 a.m. Jerry, and one more time before we go, remind our listeners where to go today to kind of respect those who have had a Purple Heart.
Yeah, the Purple Heart ceremony will take place sharply at 11 o'clock this morning on the east side of the old courthouse or McLean County Historical Museum. If there was bad weather, we're still going to hold it, but it'll be inside the building. So welcome everybody to come out and show our remembrance and our respect for those who served and gave up more than just the few years of their life that they served. They actually gave up life, body, and limb in some cases. So come on out and help celebrate the first Purple Heart Day here in McLean County.
Wonderful. Jerry Vogler, you have a great rest of your day. Folks, we'll be back. Colorado raising their age to buy a firearm to the age of 21. That's next. The new law, Colorado raising the age to 21. And folks, if you're watching right now, be sure to like, love, share this out with your friends. I really would appreciate it if you could do that for me. Colorado raising the age to buy a firearm to the age of 21. So a new gun control law was passed in Colorado, and it now prohibits many legal U.S. adults from buying a firearm. So Senate bill forbids all people under the age of 21 from purchasing a firearm, except in the case of active members of the military, peace officers, and people who approved by peace officer standards and training boards. So peace officers, I'd imagine, are like police officers or something like that. You know, I've noticed this in the news, and I don't know if you guys have. People are calling police officers peace officers. I don't know why we've changed over from police to peace officers, but I don't like the rhetoric change, and it's concerning to me. So here's what the gun control advocates are saying. People under the age of 21 are no longer going to have the right to defend themselves with firearms. This is what Kevin Day, he's a store manager at the DCF Guns in Castle Rock, Colorado. So he's a gun store owner. The best thing we can do is to continue to educate the public. Some have reacted by initiating lawsuits against the state of Colorado. Yeah, to me, you cannot deny people if they're legally adult, and that's what you are at the age of 18. You're legally adult. You cannot deny adults from purchasing firearms. This is unconstitutional, especially because we have people who are serving in the military who can be armed before the age of 21. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, how we have the people in Colorado now not able to purchase a firearms at the age of 18. I love this. Megan Rapinoe, she's in the news today. She says the best memory of playing U.S. soccer was the equal pay with Ben. So Rapinoe bragged about equal pay moments after she lost the game for the USA. She had this penalty kick, and she completely, I mean, it was just soaring above that goalpost there. So she was very instrumental in helping the U.S. women's national soccer team lose with a round of 16 at the FIFA World Cup, missing a penalty kick in overtime. So the loss to Sweden means that the U.S., a two-time defenders of the Cup, are out of the Australia games. So Rapinoe, she laughed as she walked off the field for missing the penalty shot in overtime. But she said that there was a memory of hers that she will forever remember. And she goes, it's the equal pay. I mean, probably the equal pay. Oh my gosh. So this is absolutely wild. Hang on. Let me listen to this. If I can hear it. All right, we're going to be back, and I'm going to play this audio clip of Megan Rapinoe here for us. My God, this one's nuts. Look, there's a reason why. I mean, the men's team generated $185 million in the decade leading up to Rapinoe's demand of getting, equal pay for women's. The women's team earned half that, right? About $100 million in revenue. So it's just like, if you make more in revenue than you should be paid more, right? Like, if people have eyeballs on you guys rather than eyeballs on the women's team, then I don't see why they wouldn't get paid more. You know what I mean? Um, so Megan Rapinoe, I mean, what a loser. She the most cherished memory of playing U.S. soccer is, quote, the equal pay. My God. Um, so yeah, we're gonna get to those two story plus this dark Brandon meme resurrecting. It's really quite weird. Joe Biden having this coffee mug with his eyes kind of blanked out with the red around them, like red lights for eyes. So on the day he had one of his political opponents indicted for exercising free speech, someone at the White House thought it would be a great idea to hand Joe Biden a mug and told him to put it to his mouth while they filmed him for 9 seconds. And then, of course, after a billion takes later, because they had to, wait for Joe Biden to go to the bathroom, he fell asleep a couple of times while they were trying to film this. A billion takes later, they created a tweet, a video resurrecting the Dark Brandon meme. So I'm going to walk us through what the Dark Brandon meme is. Here, coming up in just a little bit. Donnie, I like what you have to say here. Tom DeVore proved that what they're doing in Colorado is unconstitutional and it's not going to pass muster in court. True. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. She is just so virtue signally. And, she says that her most cherished memory about playing U.S. soccer was the equal pay. What a loser. This is Megan Rapinoe. Let's take a listen. You can see me live in the studio here. The Morning Buzz is on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. Let's take a listen to Megan Rapinoe. And what she says is her most cherished memory playing for the U.S. Now, I think she is like retiring at this point. So she was instrumental in their loss. She missed a penalty kick. I mean, it just soared right over that goal. I watched it. It was incredibly bad. But here's Megan Rapinoe. Here we go.
Is there a memory that stands out to you right now in this moment?
I mean, probably equal pay chance after the final. And I think, they're saying equal pay, but could have been saying a lot of things. I think this team has always fought for so much more. And that's been the most rewarding part for me, of course, playing in World Cups and winning championships and doing all that. But, to know that we've used our really special talent to do something that's really like changed the world forever. I think that means the most to me. And, the players in this locker room here, they're just getting started. And, to all the players that I've played with, obviously, who know what it's like to be in the grind.
Shut it off, Kat. Shut it off. Don't worry, I will. So Megan Rapinoe there. I just want to because numbers don't lie. Okay, numbers don't lie. We have the men's team. They made like 185.7 million. That's how much the men's team generated in revenue. And they generated that in the decade leading up to Megan Rapinoe's demand that the women get paid the same amount. And the women's team, they earned like near half that. It was $101 million in revenue. The men's soccer team is just more profitable. If you have more profit, if you have more revenue, then you are able to spend that revenue on salaries, on pay. U.S. Soccer reports, however, the women were already being paid more than the men. Between 2015 and 2019, the U.S. women's national team played 111 total games and made $24.5 million overall, averaging about $220,000 per game. Okay, that's how much money they were making between 2015 and 2019. Now, the men's team, they only played about 87 total games, and they made 18 million overall, which was less between 2015 and 2019. And they were averaging about 212,000 per game. So they were actually making less for a large portion. I mean, about 4 or 5 years. Okay, so it's just like that, despite them having more revenue, having more profit. She's ridiculous. My favorite memory about the U.S. soccer team was that, women got paid equal. No, actually, y'all got paid more, despite the fact that y'all don't even make this like near the revenue that the men's team was getting. Gosh, absolutely ridiculous. Colorado, this is super unconstitutional. Passing this bill, it's supposed to go into effect on today. Colorado raises the age to buy firearms to the age of 21. Ridiculous. I think that Illinois tried to do this. Tom DeVore shut this down. From what I understand, Colorado is now prohibiting legal U.S. adults from buying firearms. Unconstitutional. This is so wrong. You can now, the bill, it does make exceptions for people who are active members of the U.S. military, peace officers. I'd imagine that means police officers. I don't know. But the Democrat governor, Jared Polis, says that this is going into effect today. And look, this is just unconstitutional. Completely you cannot take away people's right to defend themselves. But they're doing it in Colorado. So I wanted to bring that up. I also wanted to bring this up. Joe Biden resurrecting the Dark Brandon meme. And this is reaching unprecedented levels of cringe. Now, it's so much better if you see it. So I'm going to give you guys some time to go to YouTube to try to check this video out. I've got it here on the YouTube channel, Facebook. I'm also on Twitter and Rumble. You can see me live in studio. You can also see the video. Now, this is just super cringy. Joe Biden, he's got a cup. It's a mug. It's a coffee mug. And they filmed him for about 9 seconds. Now, this is the same day that we had Joe Biden's DOJ weaponized against his political opponent, Donald Trump, and they indicted him for exercising his right to free speech. In Jack Smith's own indictment, it says that he had the right to falsely claim that the election was stolen. And I mean, yet he's indicting him for it anyway. He wasn't charged for incitement. Now, I don't know exactly what the crime is here, what they're trying to say, trying to play devil's advocate. I have no idea what the left is trying to do when it comes to this indictment. What crime did he commit? What are you saying was a crime? Now, they're not charging him with incitement. That's key here. So I have no idea what crime they're trying to go after Donald Trump for. I thought that they were trying to spin it like, oh, he said something that led to, a lot of times what people will do is they'll say, if you led somebody to kill themselves, or if you said something that led somebody to kill themselves, that's kind of incitement of, or encouraging somebody to murder themselves or something like that. That's what I thought they were going to kind of go with, was like some sort of incitement, but God only knows what they're trying to say is criminal here about the ellipse speech that he gave at the J6 rally. Anyway, so on the same day that he was indicting his political opponent, Joe Biden filmed himself. Well, his handlers filmed Joe Biden taking a mug and putting it to his mouth. And they filmed him for 9 seconds. And I'm sure it took probably a billion takes, because we know that Joe Biden was probably constantly trying to get up to go to the bathroom. He probably fell asleep a couple of times. So a billion takes later, we have this video resurrecting the Dark Brandon meme. So this was released the day of the indictment, and I'm pretty sure it was meant to be like some sort of in-your-face dig at the right, because they indicted our guy. They indicted the political opposition. And I think that they were really trying to get a reaction out of the right, and they wanted us to be outraged by this video. But really, I think that we're just looking at this and we're barely able to roll our eyes, because this is just incredibly cringy. Let's take a listen here to Joe Biden and them trying to resurrect this Dark Brandon meme. And like I said, you can see it on YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble. Here we go.
I like my coffee dark.
Okay, so there you have Joe Biden, and he's got his mug, and on the mug, it's Joe Biden's face, and his eyes are these bright red, like flashing lights. It kind of looks demonic if I had to put a pin in it and pin it down. So you're probably like, what the heck is Dark Brandon? Well, let's take a trip back to 2021. In the beginning of 2021, about September, there was college football going on, and a bunch of dudes had way too many beers before the game, and they started chanting, blank Joe Biden, blank Joe Biden. I can't say the word because FCC, but that's what they would chant at these football games, and it captivated the nation. I mean, at every sporting event, people were shouting out and chanting blank Joe Biden. And then one day, this guy named Brandon won a NASCAR race, and the reporter interviewing him thought that the crowd was chanting, let's go Brandon, instead of blank Joe Biden. We all know that this reporter probably knew that that was not what they were saying, let's go Brandon. They were definitely saying blank Joe Biden. That's when things really took off, when this reporter, I mean, pretty much was trying to lie and say that the crowd was saying, let's go Brandon, instead of blank Joe Biden. So now Americans, we have this very family-friendly way to express how Joe Biden is a failure of a man and he sucks at life. And it's a very simple slogan, let's go Brandon. Everybody knows what that means. There were even songs written about it. Young guys, middle-aged senators, they all got involved. We've got a TikTok here. I want to share this with you. It's Senator Ted Cruz getting in on the let's go Brandon. Let's go Brandon! Let's take a listen to this. Here we go.
Let's go, Brandon. Say it. Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon.
So there he is, Ted Cruz, getting in on the let's go Brandon meme. Now, the progressive response, the leftist response to let's go Brandon was this dark Brandon meme. So in their fantasy world, they believe that Joe Biden has this alter ego with red eyes who looks like a demon, right? And that this is their attempt at edgelording. But they failed so badly because what they failed to remember is that Joe Biden has dementia and that he doesn't remember to use the bathroom before he leaves to go meet the Pope, and he poops himself. Okay, so that's why the dark Brandon meme doesn't work, because Joe Biden is not this sassy, sharp old man who drives a Corvette and totally owns Republicans on the daily. He's just not that guy. In reality, Joe Biden has dementia. Okay, so he's not this sassy, sharp old man. So on the day we've got Joe Biden's DOJ indicting one of his political opponents, the White House thought it would be a great idea to celebrate Biden being a supervillain. So they came out with this video, and in their fantasy, Joe Biden, the demon, celebrated with a cup of prune juice in his coffee mug. I mean, at least they got the demon part right. Okay. So it's very weird, this dark Brandon meme. I do have to take a break, but we are going to come back. I got a few stories to run through. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about was this poll. 55% of Americans oppose funding for the war in Ukraine, and this was a poll done by CNN. So a lot of people do not agree with this funding and this more money to Ukraine. We'll be back on the other side. This is the Morning Buzz. Hey, good morning. Fudge Joe Biden. Oh, that would have been better. Yes, Donnie. Fudge Joe Biden instead of blank, like F Joe Biden. So, yeah, the dark Brandon meme, I don't understand it. And it's so funny. The left cannot meme. No matter what they do, they seem to not be able to really get their heads around this idea that Joe Biden is not this like he doesn't have this sassy personality. He doesn't own Republicans on the daily. He's just literally a dementia-riddled man who forgets to go to the bathroom before he meets the Pope and poops himself. So go ahead, smash that like button. We're going to be back. Like I said, this poll, 55% of Americans do not want to continue to fund this war in Ukraine. And this is a CNN poll, so this isn't like one of those right-leaning polls. A new poll out from CNN says that most Americans are not on board with sending even more funding to Ukraine to aid the war effort. So the Biden administration has sent billions thus far in cash and weapons. They sent another 2.1 billion in June, and they promised even more. And they sent all kinds of things like munitions. They even sent these bombs. I forget what they were called. They're a type of bomb that doesn't detonate really, but they're low on munitions over in Ukraine. So we sent these bombs that were actually, people have said, is a war crime to use these types of bombs because they don't detonate and they detonate at a later time. So it could kill civilians. So, yes, 55% of Americans have said that the U.S. Congress should not authorize additional funding to support Ukraine. 45% said that they're still in favor of sending more. 51% say that the U.S. has already done enough for this nation, for Ukraine. It is not the 51st state of the United States, okay? So, I mean, people are not in favor of this. And I love how Mike Pence will get out there and say, like, we need to be sending more. Like, who are you talking to? Because it's definitely not the majority of Americans. If you're watching right now, go ahead and smash that like button. We're going to be back in just a couple of minutes. It's the 8 o'clock hour here on the Morning Buzz. You can always text in at 309-451-9299. We will be getting to this story I wanted to run through real quick. Jamie Foxx attacked. He apologizes for these anti-Semitic Instagram posts. I don't think that it's really all that anti-Semitic at all. And then Megyn Kelly savages this tabloid reporter for challenging her credibility. The corporate journalismers right now are big mad because these podcasters, Tucker Carlson on Twitter, they are surpassing their numbers. Nobody tunes into cable news. Nobody tunes into this traditional media anymore because it's crap. And they know that the people on these cable news networks, these corporate journalismers, they don't have editorial control over their content. And people don't really appreciate that. They want to know that the person who is disseminating this information has editorial control over it and is authentic. And they're big mad at Megyn Kelly because her podcast is actually really good and popular. So Keith Olbermann is out there and he's trying to rip on Megyn Kelly. We're going to be back in just a couple of minutes. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. Real quick, I do want to review a little bit or criticize more so the Barbie movie. So the Barbie movie, I think it's made about $1 billion out of the box office. And, you know, I'm not shocked by that because the marketing has been insane for this movie. I think I was out at this ice cream shop and they had an entire flavor dedicated to the Barbie movie. And that's just where we're at right now in the United States. We've got all this marketing for this movie, and this movie is complete garbage. It's hot garbage. So the movie opens up. I'm not going to try my best not to spoil it, just in case you want to go see and have your eyes bleeding, because that's literally like at least it was like funny. It was so bad that it was funny for me. So I sat there in the theater and I was like laughing the entire time because it was ridiculous. But in the beginning, we had these little girls. And I mean, shame on you if you're taking your daughter to go see this. Like, really shame on you if you're taking your daughter to go see this, because it's indoctrination at it's the highest level. They say that it's wrong to give your daughter a baby doll because it imitates motherhood. And it suggests, I guess, if you were to give your child this toy baby doll, it suggests that you don't want anything for this young girl other than her being a mother, and that being a mother is so terrible that, I mean, you should smash your baby dolls. This is literally what happens in the beginning of the film. They take the baby dolls, the little girls with their baby dolls, they take the baby dolls and they smash the heads of the baby dolls on the ground, and they destroy these little baby dolls. And they replace it with Barbie. And Barbie is this feminazi who is like, well, you can be anything, you can have it all as a woman. You can be the CEO and a mother. And that's incredibly, and they kind of touch on it in the film. How dangerous that is, because women are always faced with, I got to be the boss, but I can't be too mean. I've got to have my femininity, and I can't be too mean, but I've still got to be a boss. And you're kind of in two worlds at once. And it's really damaging. Like, let's talk about that. That's really damaging to a woman's health. Okay. And they touch on that in the film. But what they failed to point out is that the reason why women feel like they have to be in both worlds is because of the feminazi movement. And, they say in Barbie land, this is where women dominate everything in Barbie land. And then in the real world, men dominate everything. But they contradict themselves yet again, because Ken, the man, finds himself in the real world with Barbie, and he sees that all the men are running everything. Not true. Right? In the real world, that's definitely not true. There are plenty of women who are CEOs. There are plenty of women, maybe not to the extent that men are, but let's talk about, the qualities of women biologically. It doesn't really afford them the ability to become these big CEOs, because it doesn't mean that they're less than. It just means they're different, and they're not about becoming a CEO. They're more emotional in nature, which they touch on, because Barbie cries and she notices people, and she sheds a single tear for this woman sitting on a park bench because she's elderly, and it touches on the feminine, the feminine qualities of women in the real world. And I think it's beautiful. I don't think that's anything to be ashamed of. Women just notice people way more than that of men do, right? They just notice the emotions of people before anything else. So they touch on that because they're both in this real world. But Ken tries to get a job in the real world as a man, and he thinks that he's just going to be given a job. But he's met with this merit-based system where he has to have all of these credentials in order to have a job, because that is the real world. It's a merit-based system. If you have the qualifications for the job, you're going to get the job. So he doesn't get the job as the CEO, but the CEO tells him, yeah, but don't worry, the men still rule everything. We just kind of do it in secret, and we have like this merit-based system, but it's just for theatrics. Like, really, the men run everything in this merit-based system is just theatrics, because there's this underlying patriarchy that is out there, and it just doesn't make sense. Like, it's so contradictory, the film, and it was terrible. It was, and if you're taking your young girls to go see this, shame on you, because what it does, it really is confusing, I would think, for a young child, a young female, to try to unpack what is going on. There's a lot of plot holes. Now, I will say this about the film, that it was very pretty. Like, there was a lot of colors. There was a lot of cinematics that went into it. I will say that. It was very pink, and it was very like entertaining. But I mean, the smashing of baby doll heads in the beginning did it for me to where I was like, okay, this film is a bit ridiculous. It's a bit much. So we're going to be back here. There's my review. I've got to tell you a little bit about Megyn Kelly and how Keith Olbermann was after her because she's, I don't know, actually making something of herself. And he tried to challenge her credibility because she has a podcast now and she's not a corporate journalismer. And they're big mad that she's not a corporate journalismer anymore. And she's actually having success in the podcasting world. So we're going to be back here on The Buzz. Have you seen the Barbie movie? Yikes. Throw it in the comments if you've seen it. Now, I actually saw that movie and Jesus Revolution. Now, I really like Jesus Revolution. That was a great film. It talks about how in the 70s there was this real big push for like acid and teenagers who were leaving their families and they were going to try to find answers through things like acid and these concert, Janis Joplin concert. And the moral of the film, or the moral story really, was that, the answers that all of these young people were seeking, they weren't found in drugs, but rather it was all found in Jesus and being saved. So in the film, there were a lot of baptisms that took place at Pirate Grove, which was a true story. Greg Laurie or something, Greg Laurie, Lonnie. It was all based off of a true story, and it was this revival that happened in the 70s. And watching that really was interesting because I would love to see something like that happen in today's world. I think that a lot of these Antifa, BLM activists, even these queer LGBTQ people, don't really understand what they're searching for. They're just searching for something. And I think that something could be Jesus Christ, right? They really need answers. And, all of this anxiety we have, like, what is it? $42 billion a year is spent to manage here in the United States anxiety. $42 billion a year just to manage anxiety. It's not even to eradicate anxiety. And I think that a lot of these younger kids, this is a lost generation. These younger kids are looking for something like they were in the 70s. And the answer is always Jesus Christ. The answer is Christ. And that movie, Jesus Revolution, was so good. It was really, really well done. And historically accurate. And I thought it was really cool. So that was a good movie. Barbie sucked really bad. I mean, in the beginning of the film, it just put a sour taste in my mouth because the smashing of your Barbie doll or of your baby dolls, because God forbid you give your child a baby doll to imitate some sort of motherhood or prepare her for motherhood. That's the whole point of a baby doll, right? Is to kind of imitate motherhood, her taking care of something. It's very good for young girls to have a baby doll. Because, I mean, let's be honest here. I don't know the statistics around you becoming a mother as a woman, but I'm going to say that it's probably pretty high, still, even despite this whole attack on motherhood and being a mother and that being some sort of um, like terrible life choice, right? Even with this attack on motherhood, I think that most women become mothers. And even if that's not, and I'm not trying to attack anybody who you're not cut out for motherhood. That's okay, right? I'm not attacking people who want to be CEOs, but there's this yin and yang of life. And the Barbie movie failed to really understand that there are people who have a dominant nature, and that, yes, is typically men who dominate in things like the corporate world, or who dominate in things like labor, physical labor, because look at them, right? They're beefed out. They're 2 times taller than women most of the time, right? Now, that's not to say that women aren't construction workers, women aren't CEOs. They can be, but it's not anything to do really with the whole gender. It has everything to do with the type of person and personality you have. And men just traditionally are just more dominant. That doesn't mean that they're better. It just means that they are more dominant. You can't have two bosses. There's a dominant uh, personality, and then there's a submissive personality. Okay, that doesn't mean that they're bad. That submissive is bad. That dominant is bad. It just means that they're different. And I mean, Barbie tried to really like, some people are just like these emotional. If you're emotional, or if you are more people oriented and you notice people rather than, trying to meet the bottom line as some sort of CEO, that you are lesser than. And that's just not true. And that's what's so wrong with the feminazi movement. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Man, this show really flew by. I'm not going to get to the Megyn Kelly story. I don't have enough time here, but Megyn Kelly, she did completely savage this tabloid reporter for challenging her credibility. And the reason why I pulled this story for you today on the Buzz was because the corporate journalismers, this mainstream media, they're big mad, folks, because podcasters like Megyn Kelly are having extreme success. The numbers from Tucker Carlson on Twitter is surpassing every single cable news outlet ever. I mean, he's got 7 million viewers on his podcasts on Twitter. And when you look at things like Fox News in that same time slot, right, that he was in, they're barely breaking like maybe 2 million. So the differences between cable news and these podcasters like Megyn Kelly is wildly insane. She has extreme success. And what's really sad about this is that they go after her because she has like an hour or so podcast. And out of that hour or so, she took 8 minutes to talk about how Joe Rogan was kind of wishy-washy on the Bud Light boycott, and he couldn't really decide if the boycott was silly or if the company did actually sell out the middle-class customer base, and it was wrong. So the Daily Beast, they went after Megyn Kelly and her credibility, and they said this: in just a few short years, Megyn Kelly went from one of the most sought-after, highly paid anchors in television news to a YouTuber devoting her time to raging about what woke beer another podcaster drinks. She took 8 minutes out of her podcast to talk about the woke beer, okay, dude? And they went after her credibility, and she shot back and she said, you know what? I make more than you, and I get to be happily married and raise my children, and I am the sole deciding editorial. I have full editorial control over my digital shows. And she said she just blasts, totally savages them, and good for her. And screw mainstream media, screw corporate journalismers. We're better than you. Podcasters are better than you. Be sure to subscribe to my channel on YouTube. That's Kat Peterson 929. You guys have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.